Cool. Cool.
Yes. There we are. Very nice. Very good.
And nice. Always nice.
Yeah. No, I can actually maybe I can align this Twitch chat a little bit better now that we're live. The joys of pre-show.
The joys of pre-show.
OBS, please. That looks.
No, down.
Hey man, you're seeing the delayed version. You can't trick me like this. I'm more.
I could keep it going for ages. I could keep telling you it's wrong now. Move it a little bit. Do it. It'll be quite funny.
It looks pretty good now. So I could make it smaller. I could make it the same size as the event list. But the problem with the event list is it doesn't stay permanently.
It's all right. It's only been broken for 4 weeks, so it's fine.
Well, it's funny. I was watching Merlin's stream the other day, and his stays there indefinitely.
Yeah, you can do it in the code. I never got around to it before, so I'll get into the code this week and I'll make it stay.
Yeah, because we might as well just have it up like always.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm getting bollocked for eating in front of the camera here. It's the pre-show. It's all right. I'm allowed to eat.
No, it's the pre-show, guys. Come on, we're just making sure everything is going all right. Just hanging out. Yeah.
Talk.
Maybe answering some questions, saying hello. Sometimes you just gotta snack, man. Sometimes you just gotta snack.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got to remember, guys. It's like 2 a.m. for me. I need energy to stay awake. So. Otherwise, I'll be asleep halfway through the show.
Gio says make the event list the same size as the chat. Should I do that?
No, because then you have to have more in the event list, and it took me ages to get the code right for the event list. So I just need to make the event list stay, and then I'll change the code for the what we call it, the chat box, so that the font stays the same size, but the box shrinks.
Okay.
And then they'll both be there permanently on this particular layout. I'll do that this week. I promise I'll get it fixed for next week.
Yeah. Otherwise, Gio just might yell at you.
Yeah, Gio can yell at me if he wants. He likes to yell.
Gio likes to yell.
Yeah. Hint's worried about keyboard crumbs. I'm not sure that Roundtree's randoms are going to give me crumbs, to be honest with you, being gummy sweets, but they'll be alright.
I did my snacking before the show.
This is still before the show.
I'm a really good host.
Right, okay, fine. I see how it is.
Just kidding.
I see how it is. I was asleep before the show. Thank you very much.
That's true.
I was getting a couple of hours kid.
I've eaten on stream numerous times. It's okay.
Yeah, it happens. Pangawin as well, subscribed for 3 months. Thank you very much. Ron DG as well, subscribed for 6 months as well. So thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate those. It's very, very kind of you. And as always, we appreciate anyone who shows any support. Captain Schwar as well, 24 months. There it is, guys. There it is, the first 24.
The 2 year.
2 year. Yeah, wow. 24 months. Ooh. That feels good to see that.
Oof. Got me sweating over here. Oof. Fantastic.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Captain Schwar, you are the first person to hit the 24-month streak that we've seen on stream. So you may not have been the first person to subscribe, but you are definitely the first person up there.
He might have been the first person to subscribe.
Actually. I don't know. I'd have to check.
I'd have to go back to like the first episode where we had Twitch affiliate, which was like a year after we started Top Clack.
Yeah, maybe we should. Well, no, you can check it in the stats anyway. We can have a look in the stats.
Okay, dude. Okay.
Twitch backend. Yeah, I'll have a look after the show. But maybe that's worth a little giveaway. Maybe I should send Captain Schwara a couple of stickers and a TC cap or something like that. I've got some left over.
Yeah. I have some as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Well, Captain Schwar, reach out to either myself or Brian, whoever's closest to you, wherever you are in the world. One of us will ship you a keycap and some stickers.
We're gonna. I'm pretty sure he's in the U.S. I think I've shipped him something before. I think he won during our first year anniversary. I think he won something pretty epic. Like it was like a 1-off or like a 2-off of a Key Collective Cosmonaut, the collaboration with.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I remember
the
the giveaway.
Event Horizon colorway, if I recall.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, I do remember. It's a very, very lovely cap, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah, Yeah, I was really annoyed with speaking of Booper's caps when Mike sent me his Space 65 to build. He'd got one of the Deep Space GMK sets, which I know we both have as well, and we both really like. He'd also got the cap for that as well, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was so good. I was so tempted to lose that and not send it. I don't know how it wasn't there, Mike. It just never came with the box.
You gotta get it replaced. I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't tell me he was sending it, so I could have been like, I never saw it in the box. But
awesome.
I'm too much of a nice guy for that.
Yeah.
But I was shocked by how nice that cap was. Yeah, probably one of the nicest. I've got a couple of Cosmos myself, but that was probably the nicest one I've seen IRL.
That's still one of my favorite
nice.
Sculpts. Both the original and the collaboration. They're so good. So good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to Slim Thickens for a 3-month streak on that Twitch Prime sub. Thank you. As well as Noxygen on a 2 months for Twitch Prime. Thank you so much, guys.
Yes, it's finally able to redo this. Thank you, man. We appreciate that.
And
CJT as well. Yeah, 8-month streak. Which, interestingly, that coincides with when I joined Top Clack.
Wow.
Thank you, CJ, for supporting me and not supporting Brian prior to that. Thank you.
Hey, we're in this together, okay? We are in this together. Oh, man. I'm glad this show isn't going to be 3 hours long today.
So
and I imagine you are too.
Work week. Oh, yeah, this week, 4 14-hour days, I think it's been this week, something like that at work.
That's gross.
It's just been an absolute nightmare. And I've got a 2-hour commute each way as well, either side of that. So, yeah, it's been absolutely terrible.
That's a nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, we're right at the cusp of delivering about 6 different projects that all fall into my remit, and just keeping all of the teams on track to do what they need to be doing. And yeah, it's been a small nightmare, but hopefully next week it'll calm down a little bit. And tomorrow is my non-working day, so I don't have to go into work tomorrow, so that's fine.
Nice. Speaking of people that clearly like to support you instead of me, Jay, Super User, also on an 8th month in a row for that Twitch Prime. Thank you so much. Everyone that just subscribes when Jay joined is, they officially hate me. I guess.
Supports me, right? Yeah, they just support me. Yeah. Oh, look, there we go. You've got a subscriber now.
Yay!
There you go. Thank you very much for a whole year, dude. Thank you, dude. We really appreciate that.
That better not become like a running joke.
What? How we just cut them up? How long has Jay been on Top Clack? Oh yeah,
I have to do the math like every time.
Yeah.
So I look at my wrist for that because usually I'd wear like a calculator watch. Are those still in fashion? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, they've actually come back quite recently. The calculator
really?
Watches, yeah. Oh, CJ saying he came for me and then stayed for the love all round. There you
go. Oh man, Casio watches. Yeah, I remember I used to have a roommate that had one of those Casio calculator watches.
Oh right,
man,
yeah.
Freaking, it was so bad. It was great, but it was terrible also at the same time.
When I was in high school, so this is like the late 90s, I used to have one of those ones that could change the channel on the TV. And the best thing in the world was whenever you were doing at school, you were having, the teacher was showing a show or something like that, and you'd tune the watch to that TV screen, you'd change the channel from the back of the classroom and snigger about it for about 15 minutes. That was the best thing ever to do in high school.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, there were these. They're basically just they're just emitted, like an ultraviolet beam, like your standard remote control does. And they weren't particularly expensive either at the time. So I remember having a couple of those. I remember winding some teachers up quite chronically about that.
Oh man, Pilot XJ gifts a sub to KVS. Thank you so much. That's 24th gifted sub of the channel. You are a saint. Very nice. Thank you, sir.
Nice. And Fabry Rock as well. Hello from the EU. Yes, hello in the EU. Hello, EU friends.
Hey, I could be in the EU. What if I'm in the EU right now and nobody knows?
Well, I've done a stream from the States, so you need to do a stream from the EU. That's only fair, right?
That's true. Yes.
So when are you coming over? I'll make up a spare bed.
Tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow.
You'll have to good luck with the dog, I'm afraid.
That's okay. I like dogs.
Yeah.
I get along swimmingly with animals.
Good.
You guys should
swap rooms. You do realize how far away that is. It's like 4,000 miles or something.
It's casual.
10-hour flight.
Casual distance, Jay.
Swap room. Yeah.
Oh man, that's great.
Right down the street. Yeah, your definition of down the street is not the same as mine. Just green screen it. We could green screen it. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We could green screen it.
That sounds like a lot of work for really minimal payoff. That's bad value. I don't like bad value.
Or swap beards. Yeah, so I can't grow a beard under here particularly well. Down the sides and stuff, I can grow a beard. But under here, it doesn't look as good as Brian's does. I can't grow the whole neck beard part.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I'm just a neckbeard.
I wasn't calling you a neckbeard. I just said I can't grow the beard.
No, you guys. We have witnesses. Everyone, you guys were all in on it, calling me neckbeards, man. I don't appreciate that.
Okay, fine.
Just kidding. I am a neckbeard.
And Matt Block subscribes for 10 months, saying good evening, gents. Good evening to you, good sir. Thank you very much for joining. We really appreciate
it. Thank you so much, man. I'm actually wearing his shirt too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you are.
I need to get a fedora and just say "milady" and tip it or whatever. That's what neckbeards do, right?
Where's the quit TC button? Is that around here somewhere?
Yeah, it's gonna go. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the end stream real quick.
Remind J8 months, and then the Unicorn 8. Is that 8 bits? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much, dude. The Uni 8.
Who is
Brian?
I'm like, wow. I like dropped out hard in relevancy in this community. I feel like Jay is the new man.
No, not all. Although I have been enjoying some new areas of the community this past couple of weeks. I find myself dipping in and out of the 40% Discord more and more often, and they actually inspired me to post the meme that I posted on Reddit earlier on today. That's done quite well, because that's all they ever do in their Discord. Is whenever I go, it's just meme, a nice little post, meme, and then someone saying hi to someone else. But they get a lot of stuff done, a lot of good stuff coming out.
Memes are we were talking about it before the show, like even on RMK, memes have kind of just taken over a lot of the outlets of the community.
And it's actually kind of disappointing, because I thought it was a funny joke I was making about all the bots being the same. Haha, great. But it's kind of sad that it made so many updates, and I think it's before I went to sleep, it's about 800, and when I woke up a couple of hours ago, it's about 3,000, something like that. But it's really sad that something like that took me 2 minutes to do is really tongue-in-cheek. It's a bit sarcastic. It's not really how I feel about the community. It's more just me making a small joke. I thought we'd get 40 or 50 people to do it, but when something like that does so well compared to some of the stuff that people slave over and spend hours over, and they do, all these awesome hand wire builds and custom hand milled wooden cases and all of that, it's kind of sad that we don't support that more than what we do. People just ignore that stuff, and I think I'm guilty of it as well, of just scrolling through and skipping some of the stuff that isn't a Jane TKL with Vint Blacks and GMK Keycaps out. It's easy to do, and I think as a community we should be a little bit more supportive of that kind of stuff. All the small stuff, for people doing cool things that they really enjoy and are really excited to share with the rest of the community. We should support that more.
Yeah,
we really should support that more.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, since I've actually been in the community, the transition from RMK being like actual like the place for information and discussion, and now it's kind of just become like a dump for pictures and memes. And like the actual like quality stuff, like you're saying, that people put ridiculous amounts of effort into, just kind of get thrown to the wayside. And sometimes they thrive on other platforms, but I mean RMK specifically it's changed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Since because I kind of left the hobby and drifted back into it. Since then, it's just changed from back in the old. And I hesitate to say this, but back in the old Ripster days, where he used to do his keyboard sign sections and all of that kind of stuff, and we're discovering new stuff. And I know Ripster's popularity is up and down like a roller coaster, but we've kind of stepped away from that, and it has just become a bit memey, and then everyone's filtered out into different cliques and everything else. And I just feel like we're missing the. I'm kind of sad I posted that meme now. I'm kind of a little disappointed with myself personally, because it's detracted attention for some of the really, really good stuff that's been on there today. And there has been some great stuff on there when I was flicking through RMK the other day. I think we need to spend more time as a community congratulating the people that do cool stuff than just trying to upvote the latest memes and joke builds and stuff like that. I think I've disappointed myself with that.
All right. Well, speaking of things that aren't very negative and we're not disappointed in, PMSing Chicken and DMC both subscribing on a 17-month streak and a 5-month streak, respectively. Thank you so much, guys.
Nice, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's awesome.
And now that we're done rambling a little bit, now's probably a good time to actually officially start the show.
Shall we do that? Yeah, let's roll into the intro. And good evening, guys. Welcome to this week's Top Clack. It is the 22nd of August for you guys over in the US. It's the 23rd for me now. I'm Jay. I'm also here with the wonderful Quakeums, aka Brian, here to bring you a show, funnily enough, about keyboards. So how are you feeling this week, Brian? How are you doing? Are you excited for today's show?
Yep, my favorite day of the week. It's a pretty good show we got lined up, and we'll touch on it in just a little bit. But our 3-year anniversary is next week also, which is like really hype. Yeah. It's going to be a great episode. Lots of fun giveaways and contests that we're doing right now. So we'll touch again on that in a moment. But I am doing freaking amazing. I recently found my freakishly small wooden spoon. Those of you that get that reference, shout out to you guys, because I know maybe some of you get that reference, but maybe some people not so much. But
now the real question is that a small wooden spoon, or is it just that you were a giant? That's the real question.
This is actually pretty small. I'm trying to find something I can actually scale it to.
A keyboard. Why not a keyboard?
A keyboard. Perfect. So
yeah, we all know what a keyboard is. Yeah,
no, it's a very small wooden spoon.
Oh, it is tiny. Wow. Yeah, it's like what 7 U long? It's like a 7 U.
Shout out to anyone in chat that gets the freakishly small wooden spoon reference, because there might be a couple of you out there.
Piturka is saying that you need to turn up the volume for my mic. So Brian is in control of all of the volume and everything else, so he controls all of that stuff. So
my mic's quiet, sort of. It's also partly on your end. I have you turned up to the max, but let me.
Yeah, I'm on maximum from my side.
Hold on, wait. Maybe I can. I'll turn you up in Discord. Maybe that'll help. I have you at max in OBS always. So yeah, I can turn you up a little bit here. Let's try. Let's try this. Let me know if that's
try this. And our Bigfoot saying that I sound better on his end. Brian, turn him down instead.
Turn him down.
Yeah, he probably will do. Probably put me on mute again. Like
one of these days, I want to mute Jay for an entire episode, and I want everyone to play along. Like
just no one know. And they're raging at something that's in interest check, and you guys are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, typical.
Yeah, let us know if that's any better, guys. Sorry, man, that's what the pre-show is for. I wish someone mentioned it during the pre-show.
Oh, apparently he's too high. It's pretty high volume.
He's too high now. Oh my gosh! All right.
This is Piturko throwing the spanner in the works.
Yeah. Well, you sound really loud to me, but that doesn't always mean you sound loud on stream. All right. I just adjusted again. Hopefully that's good enough for you guys.
Cool. Testing 1 2 3, guys. Testing 1 2 3. I hope you enjoy my dulcet tones.
It was
there. We go. Perfect.
Fine in the pre-show.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Live shows are so tough, man. So tough.
Yeah, we just need a decent sound technician or a decent technician to manage all this stuff in the background for us. That's what we need.
That'd be kind of cool. That sounds really expensive, though.
Yeah, it does. It does sound expensive. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
I think the audio is fine. Cool.
Okay, we'll assume this is the new fine standard now, and hopefully this won't change.
Yeah. So okay. Should we roll into the mail call then? Have you had anything arrive this week, Brian?
Yeah, we'll start the mail call now. I've had a few things arrive. So first up, my OG space keys arrived. If any of you aren't familiar with what OG space keys are, this was a kind of an adaptation set by Honeybush, and there's a few different colors of space bars, small space bars, just in case you use split or ortho style stuff. So 3 of those. I forgot exactly which colors they are. I think they're like WS1, CR, no, I'm sorry. It's like it's CR for black, I think, and then the other ones are kind of like the beige for.
Okay, L9 and whatever else.
L9 or whatever. I don't remember exactly. Don't quote me on that. But that's pretty cool. Have those standing by in case I need them, even though I'm not much of a split ortho kind of guy. Also got a replacement plate in for the Perry 60 prototype, which I will be building on stream tomorrow. So
I'm really interested to see that.
Yeah, so after he sent me the first one, which did come with a plate, there's still paper on all this, that's why it looks like it's cardboard. But I guarantee you it is indeed acrylic. He did send me a plate with it, but I guess the plate files were a little bit off, and he told me it wasn't usable, so then he quickly got me a replacement plate, and that just arrived the other day. So excited to finally be able to put this together. That's going to be pretty fun. We will be talking a little bit more about that later on the show, because it is a part of our news doc since the group buy officially launched. And then also I had a surprise package come up from Drop's sample department. And I was like, what the heck could they be sending me? And I thought it was going to be something really interesting, but it was just some holy pandas. I was like, what would Backdrop be sending me right now? Like, I was hoping it was something really, really, like, secret that, like, I didn't even know about. But it was just Yanbo hooked me up with some holy pandas, because he did tell me he'd get me some eventually of like enough for actual board, because every time he sent me samples, I complained that it wasn't enough for a full board, and he's like 15 or something. Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, I'll get you some more soon. Don't worry. And then like he'd send me like 30 more, and I'm like, I still can't build a board. He's like, oh, I'll get you more soon. Don't worry. So
DMC saying Holy Panda equals not interesting. You heard it here first.
It's a good switch. It's a unique switch. It's fun. But it's just not that interesting anymore. It's true. It's not. It's
old news now, right?
It was great 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It was awesome. But nowadays, it's just, I'd rather use a Zeal V2.
I would tend to agree. I think they've still got their place in the community, but I don't think they're I don't think the hype for them is as warranted as it was at one point in time. I think that's how I would probably word it. The hype that was there for them 12, 18 months ago is probably not warranted now, because they're just easy to get hold of, and there's so many different variants and things like that. So yeah, good switch, but try something new. Stop looking at the old stuff again. Try something new. That'd be my thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's all I got, Jay. How about yourself?
I got a few things in. First thing was I got another lovely robot in. This is one called Deep Purple, so it's kind of like a metallic, shiny purple. So I'm really excited to try and put that on a board. The camera's not picking up the light particularly well. I also got a vintage board in for 1 key, because I needed that 1 key, which is also in GMK Missing Keys, which I picked up as well. But I've got a few OG sets. And one of the keys that was missing was the short 1.75U shift. So I've been searching down vintage boards with double shots on for that. So that arrived today as well. But it doesn't have full UK ISO as well, so I can always use the rest of the key set for something else. And I also got another set of GMK Honeywell in. So this is GMK Honeywell. I now have 3 sets of this, and I'm actually really frustrated with myself because I thought that I'd got the original round of GMK Honeywell, and then I thought I'd got the second round of GMK Honeywell, where there was a slightly different red. I think we talked about it once before on the show, Brian, where the second round, which is actually called Honeywell and Co., has a slightly different red. And I thought that I had both of those sets, but when I actually had them out next to each other, the reds were identical and the keys and everything else were identical. It's like all right, clearly I've got the same set twice. So I thought, right, I'll go and get the second set with the different red. So I went out and bought another set this past couple of weeks, and that's arrived, and now I've got 3 of the same bloody set. They're all round 1, not a single set of round 2. So if anyone does have a set of Honeywell and Co. that they would be willing to trade for Honeywell, please do let me know, because now I've got 3 sets of the same bloody thing.
I didn't even know until recently that there were multiple iterations of GMK Honeywell.
Yeah, the second round changed the red, so it's actually a slightly darker red in the second revision. The rest of the set's exactly the same. It's just the red accent keys are slightly darker. And I'd suspected that for a while, and no one had confirmed it. And then when I spoke to Living Speed Bump in Seattle, he was like, "Oh no, you're completely right. The 2 reds are absolutely completely different between the rounds. You can see next to each other." I thought, "Oh great, I've got 2 sets at home. I'm sure one of them's from each round." And then it just wasn't. So, and now I've got a 3rd set, and that's still the same round 1, and it's like. Anyway,
feels bad, man.
Yeah. Oh well, it is what it is. But that's all I've had this week. It's been
you'll get them eventually. You'll get them eventually.
Someone will want to trade.
It's a good set either way, though. So having multiples of
it is. Yeah.
We were talking about it in Seattle among a bunch of us. Honeywell is like in a lot of people's top 3 GMK sets.
Yeah,
it's funny because you don't see it that often, but like everyone kind of just respects Honeywell for what it is, and they know and understand it's such a good set. It's definitely one of my favorite GMK sets. It's absolutely amazing.
Do you know what? Do you know what the worst thing is as well? I won't actually use it with the red accent keys because I like it just as the greys and the whites. And I'm desperately trying to find this this secondary set that's got a different red, and the keys I won't ever use. It's stupid.
Desperately
really.
trying to find keys you don't and will never use. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, speaking of amazing, let's stop rambling a little bit here and move on to our announcement section so we can get into our news doc very shortly. So, of course, banner image for our Discord, as usual. If you are a Twitch subscriber here, and you are also part of our Discord in Purple Chat, you can go in there and you can share a picture that you'd like to see in our server banner. You can tag me in it. I might not reply, but I'll still save it and I'll put you in the queue. We rotate the picture every week among pictures from subs, just to try to give back a little bit so people can see that their boards are up there. Really, really cool. Try to make some good pictures if you guys don't have some already. And just,
Dixie's one last week was a good one. Yeah. I really liked Dixie's one last week. It was a great one. Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah, and then moving into the next things we've got on our list of things to remind you about, guys, it is in a couple of weeks' time. It is the 3-year anniversary. So, in fact, less than a week's time now. We've started the show, so it's less than a week. It is our 3-year anniversary. So, Top Clack has been around for 3 years now. So, we've got a bit of a special live show next week set up for you. But before that, we do have some contests for you to enter. So, the first one, there is 3 different entries. I'm posting the link to the form in chat now. This is where you can enter for our giveaways for a couple of different boards that we've got available. There's an Exent, a Skoglite, and an NK65, as well as a couple of key sets, which we're going to be giving away too. But for the first 3 for the boards, there's 3 different competitions you can enter. The first one is a song competition. So we've had a couple of entries for this one already. Brian and I will listen to the entries just before the show. There's also a secondary competition around doing a wholesome comic strip, so there's a prize up for grabs for that. And there's also a third competition where we want to see pictures of your keyboard enjoying an alternative hobby. So it might be playing golf or surfing, or showing us your keyboard doing something different. So please feel free to enter those, guys. We haven't had many responses to this one yet, so everything is up for grabs on this one. It's not going to be hard to get into the top 3 currently. So do consider joining one of those 3 competitions. And as I say, you will be able to win an Exent, a Skoglite, or an NK65 from that perspective.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how easy it will actually be to win these competitions.
Oh, yeah.
The reason we do competitions like this is because we want people to actually exert a little bit of effort to be able to win something really cool. And so many people don't want to put in any effort. So, like, if you enter any of these competitions, your odds of winning are honestly a lot higher than you might think.
Yeah. It's something that you can definitely do well at quite easily. So and reminder, guys, it's not about the quality of the pictures, it's not about the the how good your singing voice is or anything like that. It's about how much we enjoy what you submit. So we're not looking for someone who can draw the perfect comic strip. We're not looking for someone who can sing like Taylor Swift or whoever else is popular in the charts. I don't know. We're looking for someone who can just entertain us, have a bit of fun, and that we can really just enjoy. So feel free to submit that. Forms in chat now. The second competition that we have ongoing as well is we're calling it Nominate a Winner. So this is where you guys can feedback to other people in the community, and I pasted the link for this one into chat as well. So this is where you can nominate other people that you really rate, that you'd like, that have helped you in the community to win one of 2 key sets. We've got a couple of key sets up for grabs, GMK Q01 and GMK Noel. Thank you very much to GMK and Dixie for providing those boards for us as well. Sorry, key sets for us as well. So feel free to try and nominate someone. You can't nominate yourself. I know Mr. Petrov was going to try that, and we banned him from doing that. But you can nominate anyone else within the community. So all you need to do is put down your Discord username, put down the person who you're nominating's Discord username, and tell us a little bit about why you think they deserve one of these 2 key sets. So it's a really, really good way for us all to give back to the community and generate some real positivity and talk about some really, really strong positive stuff. So feel free to do that. Please do that. We've had quite a few responses to that one so far, but the more we get, the more the community's doing better for itself, and we'll share a lot of the outputs from that one as well.
Yep, it's gonna be good stuff. Just remember, these all close next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, so you have less than 6 days to get in these competitions or to nominate someone. So make sure you get in there while you can. Otherwise, you're probably not gonna win anything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Pinkoy says, for the hobby picture, can we use multiple pictures? I have so many hobbies. You can submit a imager album rather than a single image, but make sure you put the image that you're entering into the competition at the top. We will look at the other ones, but whichever image is the main image, that's the one that we'll use to judge on. Otherwise, we'll end up with far too many to be able to judge it. So if we open an image album, we're going to go by the very top pick, the first picture, and that's the one we're going to judge it on in an album. So,
I've actually gotten this question a lot. And yeah, we're just this time we're just going to be judging a single pick. Just like I've had people ask about songs too. Someone was like, "Can I enter 2 songs?" I was like, "We're judging 1 song. You enter 1 song. Enter the one that you like the most, that you think is going to do the best. You think that will enjoy the best." Again, you don't have to sing like Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran or anything. You just just do your thing. It's all about fun. It's all about positivity. It's all about what we can enjoy, what everyone can enjoy. Absolutely. And that's it. Yeah. Pretty easy.
Yeah. So if someone does submit 2 songs, we'll only go by whichever the first link we come to is. So if there's 2 links, we'll just go by the first one. So if you do want to submit 2, then bear that in mind. We probably will listen to the second one if you submit a second one, but
I'll listen to all of them. I'll listen to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be good stuff.
Cool.
So yeah, make sure you guys get in on that soon. You got less than 6 days to enter everything. So get in on that and enjoy some 3-year anniversary giveaway goodness.
Absolutely. And just because I missed it, just a big shout out again to Nightcap. So Marcus from Nightcap's ETF, he did donate both the Xen and the Skug Lights. Thank you very much to him. And thank you very much. Big shout out to Mike from Novel Keys for donating the NK65 kit as well for the prizes for that. So thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate your support.
A shout out to Viminderon and the Foo Box, who both subscribed for 12 months and 2 months respectively. Thank you so much, guys.
Nice, thank you, guys. I think Viminderon is actually behind one of the key sets we're going to talk today, but he's under a different name. Constep. It's Constep-X, I think that's So welcome to the chat, guys.
Okay, cool. Speaking of news, how about we talk about some, Jay?
Yeah, should we jump into our first news topic?
Absolutely.
Link is in chat, guys, if you want to take a look at this live with us. Yep. So this is the LZ PhysiX Ergo board with a bit of a layout preview. So this is from LiveZone himself. What do you think about this, Brian? Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, in true LZ fashion, this interest check has practically no info. He's kind of a mystic, LZ. I feel like this is really common for him. He'll put out kind of a layout idea or like a really bad render and nothing else, and be like, "What do you guys think?" Yeah. And for whatever reason, he's got the history in the community, the longevity, the experience, and he puts out a lot of amazing boards, and he's kind of heralded as one of the great OG custom designers of our community.
Yeah.
So he can, unlike a lot of other people, he can kind of get away with this stuff, and people are like, "Yes, give me that."
I'll be honest. If it hadn't been LZ, we would probably not put this on the news document because there's just no information there. But because it is LZ and he's got that respect, as Brian mentioned, we can't not include stuff like this. But sorry, Brian, tell us a little bit more about what we do know about this board.
So I mean, obviously from this thread, what we can kind of gather is first the layout. So obviously the Alice layout has been the most popular layout in the last year since its launch, and it is wildly successful. So many people love the Alice. It was voted 2018's Keyboard of the Year through Mech Madness. And, everyone's trying to get a piece of this pie, it seems like, in one way or another. But there's some alterations here. Obviously, this is kind of more of a 65% take on it, as you can see the arrow keys down here. But yeah, it kind of still feels like everyone's trying to push this Alice envelope a little bit. It's worth noting that this is not LZ's first ergonomic design. There has been the LZ Ergo in the past, which is more of a TKL, ergonomic TKL. Which I actually think looks pretty nice. But how do you feel about this one? What is your take on this?
I think this is more reminiscent of the EM7 and the Wolf Gang or whatever it was called, rather than the Alice, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, it's 65%, and both of those boards were as well. The EM7 had the arrow keys and stuff like that. So I think it's actually emulating those rather than the Alice, because those both came well before the Alice. I think the EM7 was 2015, I think. was the first time we saw that. So I think it's probably more down that route. That being said, I think it's LZ. It'll be a nice products either way. There's a couple of interesting things I do note about the board. There's 2 indicator LED spots on this instead of the usual 3. We usually see 3 on most boards. And the other thing as well is the I'm assuming that this isn't actually the design of the case or anything like that. He's just drawn a box around it effectively. But the rounding on the corners at the top left and right versus the bottom left and right is very, very significantly different. So they're much tighter rounded corners at the bottom, and then they're quite long curves at the top. So that'll be interesting from a design perspective if it does have any meaning on the case, but I suspect it doesn't. I suspect at this time it's just a frame to put around the key set to give you an idea of how to visualize it. A couple of other interesting things as well. He does say the switch plate is rubber mounted, so I'm taking that to mean he means it's going to be gasket mounted. Very similar to a lot of boards that we've seen. It is the hot thing at the moment, so I don't think we've seen another Ergo board in this kind of layout that is gasket mounted yet. I can't recall one at the very least, so it'd be nice to see something like that too.
Yeah, and being an LZ board, we can kind of speculate costs a little bit here. We can presume that this is probably going to demand quite a premium, as LZ boards tend to in the past. Yeah. We're probably looking at something in the $500 class range, if I had to guess myself. Especially being, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is LZ's first attempt at a gasket mount system as well.
As far as I'm aware, it is. Although I'm not sure if the Masterpiece that he ran a while back, the Masterpiece that ran a few months ago, I'm not sure if that had a gasket option. I feel like it might have done. I don't know, but that hasn't shipped either way. So yeah.
Very interesting.
Remi's telling me I'm wrong. It's not a gasket. I couldn't remember if it had one or not. I wasn't sure. Oh, has it shipped? I haven't seen any pictures of it. I didn't realize it shipped either. But yeah, okay. But if the Masterpiece is out there already, I'm excited to see one. So if you've got some pictures and I've missed them, send one. Also looks a little like the Majaha Pit. Yeah, if I can pronounce it. It does a little bit. Yeah, we did talk about that on stream in January, February time when
it was a while ago.
Yeah. So I haven't seen that board come to fruition yet either as well. So, but these split layouts, there's other designers working on these split layouts as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go and how they proliferate across the community.
Do we think that this type of ergonomic layout is kind of just the future for our community? With so many people trying to emulate the Alice and other similar layouts, do you think that this is going to become more of a mainstay or still kind of stay exotic?
I think we'll see more and more boards do this. What we tend to see with a lot of stuff is that it starts off in the expensive boards and then it slowly trickles down to the cheaper end boards. We've seen that very much with gaskets and like the Polaris, which looks like a great buy for the price, and then we've got the Peri 60 we're going to talk about as well. So we're starting to see those high end features come down. I suspect that we'll see high end features come down for these types of boards, very much like we've seen the Lubricante group buy for the Alice, the acrylic Alice, effectively, where that's significantly cheaper than what an Alice is. So I think we will see these kind of things drop into the lower price bracket. And whilst I don't think they will ever overtake a standard candy bar layout where it's all even, that'll still be the main preference. I think we'll see a lot more of these boards in the future. I don't think the popularity of an angled Ergo design is going to go anywhere anytime soon.
Sure. Cool. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see more about this. Hopefully we can get some more renders, but again, that's not really LZ's forte. He usually keeps things fairly mysterious.
Yeah, we'll see a board in 6 months' time, and then it'll be straight into group by the next day or something like that.
And everyone will love it. So
quite probably. Yeah,
pretty much par for the course. Thank you, Brick Cubed, for the 14 months of Twitch Prime sub. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, 14 months. Wow, that's really cool.
Very nice.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, next up, we have an interest check for Unnamed. A simple TKL. Do you think Unnamed... Now, is it... See, this is what I was thinking before the show. Is this actually the name of the keyboard, or is it just yet to be named?
I think it's yet to be named. I think it's just... although I think a simple TKL is kind of a nice name for it, to be honest.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna say Unnamed is actually the name of this TKL.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is yeah. I don't know. I hope I'm right. I want to go against you and be right. That's what makes me. That's what makes me like have fulfillment in my life, Jay. It's just being right over you.
Fair enough.
You can take that however you want.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways, this is
I'm wrong about 90% of things, so I wouldn't worry about
no, but
it.
I'm wrong about 190% of things, so it's fine.
I mean, if you take a poll of the community, I'm pretty sure they disagree with me on a lot of things. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're an ISO user. You can't be right about anything.
Oh, I see how it is. That where we're starting today, right? Okay.
No, I'm saying I'm not saying that's how I view you. That's just how the community might view you.
Right. Okay. Well, that might change later on in the news show. Actually, that might be something.
Yeah, interesting. Anyways, so this TKL we have only 2 renders so far, I believe.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. There's a few more, but apparently he does want to get some more renders. But the idea here is to have a very simple TKL design at a somewhat affordable price here. He is estimating this to be between $300 and $400. $400 is pretty close to what a lot of other custom TKLs go for in that market. $300, now you're starting to compete with things like the KBD 8X Mark II, which is tremendous value. Whereas this one is a little bit more cut down. So it is going to have a 7-degree typing angle. It is going to be top mount, pretty standard stuff there. He is going to do a traditional TKL layout as well as a wind keyless design, which is still in the works according to his to-do list. The case is going to be aluminum, and the weight is going to be mirror polished stainless steel. So that's always pretty cool. You'll have your choice between 2 different plates. You're going to have a satin finished stainless steel, or you're going to have a bead blasted polycarbonate. Which is pretty cool. I like those options. I know a lot of people don't like steel plates, but as far as firm typing experiences go, steel is actually one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, yeah.
Yep. And the price still to be decided, but again, $300 to $400 range. PCB, he's kind of designing this around Honeybush's H81-SAV, which is fairly accessible. He does multiple rounds. He often has some in stock. Relatively inexpensive PCB that works with a lot of boards. So he's kind of designing around that, and hopefully he can get some manufactured just for this group buy. That's his goal at the very least. He doesn't have a physical prototype yet, but of course we have some renders to look at. How do you feel about the way this one looks, Jay?
So to be honest, I think it looks like a TKL, right? It's as per my meme that I posted on Reddit earlier on today. It's a standardized form factor now. It's something that we see really common. I do think this has a lot of similarities with things like the Jane as well. If you look at the angled back weight on the reverse of the board, I think that's very reminiscent of the Jane. I think it looks nice. The bezels are all nice and even. The gap between keycaps on the horizontal and vertical splits between the TKL section and the FRO, they're all nice and even. I think it looks just fine. I think it's it'll be a solid board. Especially if it's at the lower end of that price range, as you say, it'll be a KBDfans type contender. To go against some of the boards that are at the cheaper end of the market. It's good. It's got every chance of succeeding. Everyone wants a TKL. It's kind of almost one of the standard form factors after a 60 and 65% these days. And I think at one point it was the standard form factor. Everything was started off as a TKL, and then we've gradually drifted into 60 and 65% as being the more predominant. But absolutely, this is. If this looks and the quality is as good as what the renders look like when the prototype comes out, I think this will do well. It's top mount, so yeah, I think it's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little mean for a second, and I'm going to say that this looks a little too simple, a little too standard. It doesn't stand out. It looks expected, predictable, and I don't really see the need for it personally. It looks like a lot of other TKLs on the market. I think this needs to have something going on with it that actually can make it compete with other options on the market. In starting that, you really got to get that price down. I think at $400, this design is just probably not going to succeed quite as well. At $300, maybe.
I think, as I said before, I think if you can compete with the kind of KBDfans price range, that'd be good. But it is nice to have one that's got no branding on it and no logos and things like that. That sometimes it's an underrated thing, is the lack of product placement almost on the boards. As much as I like a logo and I like to infill them and stuff like that, as you guys have seen in my streams, I think that sometimes just having a really nice simplistic board that's just got clean lines and classic look and good quality to it, you can't beat that, especially if it's at a great price. So yeah.
That's the hope. Bug Whisperer says, didn't people dump on Salamander with the same critique? I probably did. I don't like the Salamander. I think it's a really boring board. The quality's fine. but I think the design is really boring. You know, a lot of people are into that though. I feel like I've just seen so many TKLs that look practically the same now that I'm kind of just like immune to it. It's all kind of irrelevant to me at this point. I think it looks fine, but I don't think there's anything special about it.
Okay, so there is something that might change your mind a little bit. So I'm going to paste a link into chat if you want to open this. So this is I'm just scrolling down the intro track, and I've just seen I'd missed this before, but this is how the weight slots inside. So rather than just being a band of bar on the back, it's actually a wedge that kind of slides into the back. So like on the Jane, it's just a plate that bolts on from the inside. It's a thin piece of metal, and it's just an accent piece on that back side. This is actually a whole wedge shape that slides into that recess in the back of the board from the inside. So that's a little bit different, but it's going to be very, very difficult to make something like that consistently and inexpensively. So that's probably going to bump the price up significantly doing it that way. That's not an easy weight design to manufacture, but that is a little bit unusual. It's a little bit different to what we usually see.
Yeah, I feel like this is fighting for a market that it doesn't even know. It's trying to enter the kind of entry-level range and the simple, elegant range, but it's also, you know, trying to attempt to do something like that with the weight design that could drive up the price, which makes it kind of irrelevant for being an entry-level, like, simple TKL. So yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe something like this is going to be really super successful and I'm just stupid. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened. But yeah, it's just not doing it for me. It's just another. It seems like another top mount TKL that I just don't really care about.
If the price is low, people buy it. That's the thing.
If the price has to be low.
Yeah. That's what will set this board apart. If the price is really low, you know, and the ability to manufacture a volume of these is not a blocker to it. You know, they're not going to limit it to say 50 units or something like that. Then this will be, you know, quite successful, I think.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Speaking of things we won't have to wait nearly as long to see, the group buy for the Perry 60 V2 has now officially begun, and it's not going to be open for very long. So the actually, I have it right next to me still. Yep. So I have the prototype for the Perry V1. The design has changed a little bit from the version I have, but I think it's changed for the better, if I do say so myself. So I'm trying to find the image gallery here. Here we go. So this is a very inexpensive take on what is effectively an isolation mount keyboard. Isolation mount being something we've been seeing a lot more in the community lately, but tends to be at a higher price range. Here they try to bring it into the what I'm going to call low end, super low end, budget end, whatever. Where you can kind of get potentially the same feel and sound, but you know, for less than $150, which is pretty darn awesome. So as you can see, it is layered acrylic. That's generally how you get these really low prices. You got to do something like this because just cutting flat pieces of acrylic, pretty darn cheap. Here, one of the differences can be shown pretty well here. On the V1, all of the layers are actually supposed to be the same size at the very least, but here on the V2, they have it kind of flared to where it's thickest in the middle, and then the layers kind of flare inward to kind of give you a little bit of a little perspective on that. And also they have covers now for the bottom of the screws, which on my prototype I do not have. You probably can't really see this very well on camera, but the screws actually stick out there. There's a little bit of a nut system on the bottom.
Oh sure, yeah, I've seen both sides before. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so they've definitely made some changes for the better, it seems, and I'm a pretty big fan of this one. They've made a few more changes as well. The bezels have been a little bit thinned out, and there's going to be that step design that I was talking about. And this version, interestingly enough, won't have a standard 60 variant by the looks of it. It looks like it'll only be HHKB or Win keyless.
Interesting.
So, I mean, a lot of people, I'm totally okay with that, and a lot of other people are as well. But just in case you were trying to get a standard 60% layout, you might not be able to do it here.
Yeah, I think one of the big things I'm interested about at this board is the bang for buck, right? The fact that it's so low in price, and the fact that it's trying to offer one of those premium kind of features. Like I said before, when we were talking about the boards and how things trickle down from the top end boards to the lower end boards, we've seen, you know, gaskets come in from everything from the OTDs at like $4,000 or whatever else they cost nowadays, down to like the standard market rate of between, you know, $500 and $1,000 for a board at the high end. and then now we're starting to see them come down to the Polaris at $230, $240, and now down to $100. It's really good that we're seeing that this this kind of feature is dropping down. It's something that now anyone can try. It's attainable for anyone to have a go with. That's in the community. It's really good to see, and I think something like this is just going to do well because it is $100. It's $100, and you can try something like this out if you've never tried it before. You can't beat that kind of market value at the minute in a community like this. That's such a good deal to be able to try something new. That I just can't. I can't give enough shout outs out to Slip Repeat and stuff like that for doing this kind of stuff. It's such a great thing to do.
Yeah, it definitely looks pretty darn awesome. Of course, like you said, $100 plus $15 shipping, $115 shipped. It is limited to North America, so he doesn't want to ship international. But hey, if you know someone, if you know a guy that knows a guy, then maybe you can get something worked out there. But
yeah, I might have to with you, Brian.
yeah. we'll figure it out. But yeah, aside from the $115 price, that does not actually include a PCB, so you will need a PCB to actually get this thing up and running. That price is just for the case. But thankfully, you can get a $45 optional add-on and C60 from Cannon Keys, one of the nicer 60% PCBs on the market now. If you do ask me, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty popular. It's been getting a lot of good reviews, and we always like supporting Cannon Keys too. Upas over at Cannon Keys, really really nice guy. He does a lot of really cool stuff for the community, so pretty happy about that. So for $160 shipped, you can have the case plus PCB, and that covers shipping. That's a pretty good price. You throw in your switches, your stabilizers.
Yeah, $200 board.
You're at a $200 board. Which when was the last time you used a $200 or less board that you were like really really impressed with?
Can't remember. Couldn't name one off the top of my head. We just don't tend to get to that position these days. So for something like this, I think it's great. I just think it's really good. I just can't shout out enough for these cheap projects that bring. I don't mean cheap in a quality way either. I mean cheap as in just literal cost that give us a high quality experience for a low price. I think it's just really really good. And one of the things that we're starting to realize the community is that aluminium and metals aren't necessarily always the right option. So let's have a look at plastics again. Let's go back to that kind of we've seen it with POM. We both are big proponents of POM cases and POM plates and things like that. We both love them and different implementations of them. So why not look more at acrylic? We've kind of skipped past it. It's been on the side of the community as acrylic always. We've always had people like Clavier doing stuff like that with acrylic, but it's never been mainstream. And I think maybe it's time for that to come back. Yeah,
definitely. I'd love to see more of it. It is a relatively inexpensive material, and it's a lot of people in the community are cutting them. It's pretty easy to find all sorts of people across the community that'll cut acrylic for you for a fairly good price, and there's lots of different varieties, color options, etc. So pretty happy to see this. Yeah. Speaking of color options, you're gonna have two here. It looks like frosted acrylic or glossy black. I think I have glossy black, but I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think the glossy black will. Yeah, actually, I'd probably go for the frosted acrylic. I think
I would too. Judging by the pictures in this gallery, I'm pretty happy with the way the frosted looks. But I think I have the black, so we'll see how that works out tomorrow on stream. And of course, it does support standard 60% PCBs. The front height actually surprised me a little bit, 21.5 millimeters. So that's a little bit taller than the standard of I think 19 millimeters is kind of the go-to in our community. So this is a little bit taller than that. That worries me a little bit because I tend not to like the taller boards, but we'll see how that goes, of course. And he has a bit of a sound test here, which I did listen to, and I'm going to be totally honest. The sound test sounds really quiet. I don't know if it's supposed to just because based on the board or if the sound test itself isn't very good. But it didn't really give me a sense of how the board is going to sound. But thankfully, since I'll be building it tomorrow, I will know exactly how it sounds firsthand.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you build stream for this because this is one of those really nice community projects that brings people together. It's a really good entryway to trying good things, and it's going to be a nice product either way at the end of the day as well. So I'm really excited to see how you build it tomorrow, and I'm definitely going to pick one of these up after the show today.
I'll let chat tomorrow decide on what switches I put it into. That'll be fun. Something else that's really cool here is check out this turnaround time: 6 to 8 weeks after close of group buy to ship date. That's really quick.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's
really
that's
good.
another benefit of he's not doing his own PCB. He's outsourcing, for the on-C from Canon Keys, and it's just cutting layers of acrylic. So because of that, you can get those really quick turnaround times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's dead easy to do as long as you've got a good supplier. They can cut thousands of sheets a day. So, it's a great project. It's stuff like this. We need to see more of this sort of stuff instead of the big group buys at $600 boards, $700 boards. We need to see more like this. Bring them back down to the grassroots. And as we were saying about the community before, voting memes instead of voting good quality builds. This is the kind of thing that today, if you built one and put it on RMKs, you'd get 30, 40 upvotes because it'd look nice and then it'd kind of stall and that'd be it. Whereas if you went back in time 4 years ago, 5 years ago, this sort of thing would have been flying to the top because it would have been so unique and someone would have been doing something different and cool and interesting. And I think we need to get back to that grassroots position in the community.
I've said it at least. I've probably said it a million times in the show, and I'll say it again. Experience per dollar is the most interesting thing in this community. It really is.
Yep.
It really, really is. Not everyone can afford those $400, $500, $600 class boards. This is something that almost anyone in the community can afford.
And I don't.
It's not like it's not really any more expensive than a lot of OEM boards on the market. So like if you're in the market for a mechanical keyboard, this is the kind of stuff you can actually get, and it's not going to break the bank. And I like that.
And I don't want to take away from anything of the the big budget boards like your Alice's and your LZs and stuff like that. They still have a place in the market. I still love them. I've got a wall full of expensive boards. That's great. But if you were given the choice, Brian, of having one keyboard that was $500 or 4 or 5 prototypes of different types of stuff for $100 each, which would you pick?
The latter.
Which option would you
variety variety is the end game for me.
Give me 5 things to unbox and package and build and draw and do whatever. Totally. Much more interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, in people like us, we've been around for a while and we've experienced a lot of the boards, like a lot of those, the J and V2s and the Alices and all that class of board. Like they're great, they really are. The quality is usually very nice and they're great to type on.
Yeah,
but the experience isn't really a whole lot worse when you get to the lower end. It's just a little different. And a lot of people just aren't realizing that. A lot of people think that, your Alices and stuff are just, like, ungodly good to type on versus everything else just because of the price. That's not really the case here. And, we talked about this a little bit with Keycult boards as well. Like, the quality is super high, design is great. But, when you type on a $700 board or whatever, $800 board, it's not really a whole lot better than your $200 boards and your $300 board. It's not really that huge of a gap, and people need to start realizing that. Because a lot of people, they think that it really scales with the price, when in all actuality, you get really high diminishing returns after about $400. Really hard diminishing returns.
It's very true. Nebulin does make a point. He says he'd rather have the one high quality $500 board than 5 meh ones, and I completely get that. Maybe it's slightly different for the likes of Brian and I, where we build keyboards quite often. We do them for other people. We see a lot of these $500 boards pass through our hands, whether we're keeping them or whether we're passing them back to the owners and things like that. Maybe it is a little bit different. Maybe we're seeing it from a slightly different viewpoint. Maybe the rest of the community doesn't see it that way. But and there's nothing wrong with having a $500 board. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's great. It's something really nice, top quality, heavy, and whatever the descriptive words you want to put around that. But there's got to be something said for the cheap budget end of the market, right?
I think Nebula's missing a little bit of information here, though. Yes, if you're going to have one super high quality board versus 5 Met ones, then yeah, I'd probably rather have the one $500 high quality board. But quality doesn't necessarily scale with price. And just because something's expensive doesn't mean it's high quality, and just because something's inexpensive doesn't mean it's low quality. You can have super high quality boards that are $150, $200, and they're really high quality. Or you could have boards that are $500, $600 that are also really high quality. So that's something you have to keep in mind too. A meh board does not translate to cheap board or low quality board.
And the other thing as well is experience doesn't come with quality necessarily. Experience and quality are two different outcomes of a board. You can have a board that's got perfect anodization, perfect fit and finish. Everything goes together nicely, and it looks great from the outside. But the typing experience could be terrible. Quality doesn't necessarily mean the experience is good at the end of the day. Those are two very, very different things, and you can see that in other markets as well. You can see these cars that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, but then when people actually drive them, they're like, do you know what? It's crap. It's clunky. It's difficult. You can look at the the Lamborghinis of the 1980s, where you couldn't even see to bloody reverse the cars. You had to kind of halfing out the car and sit on the door frame to reverse the damn things. But people still like that kind of thing. So you do have to remember that there's two different sides to the community. Cost and quality are two different things, and they're irrespective of each other. Cost, quality, and experience are all three different things, and they're irrespective of each other. You can have all three. You can have two of those three. You can have just one of them. It doesn't matter. There's infinite variation. So there's nothing around saying that board's $500, therefore it's better. Not necessarily true. You can't say that board's $500, therefore the typing experience is better. Not necessarily true. It might be, but until you've tried it, until you've tried the lower end stuff, you don't know that for sure. And if you want to try a new feature out, do you really want to go and spend $500 on a gasket mounted board just so you can try a gasket mount? Or would you rather spend $100 on a nice acrylic board that you can use to do whatever? It doesn't matter if you don't like it. You can pass it on to a friend. It's something you can give to a friend, or you can type on it for on holiday, or take it as a travel board, or it doesn't matter what happens to it at that point. There's very different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, certainly. But I mean, I think we could all agree that it's boards like this that kind of are a little bit more thought-provoking, because more people can afford them. You could potentially get those higher-end experiences at a much, much lower price. And to me that really speaks volumes, and it's a really good thing. I love to see our community go in this kind of direction. I would love to see more of it.
Yeah. Different experiences for different price points for different people. It's the more choice and the more range we have for that, the more we can explore it, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Anyways, back to the Perry 60 V2 group buy, which is live, of course, now, as of about 2 days ago, I believe. Yep. So this group buy is going to close very soon, though. It closes 1 week after opening, which is only 5 days left, or until the 50-unit cap is hit. So this run, they are only going to go with a 50-unit cap, which is a little on the low side, but, probably making sure quality control is there, and if it's popular enough, maybe they'll do another run. That's kind of what I've surmised from this. So guys, get in there while you can, if you're into this sort of thing.
Slippery Pete's saying they're about halfway through as well. They're about 50 units. 25 units of the 50 sold, so about 50% of the way done. So,
cool.
If you are interested in this, guys, if you want to spend a bit of pocket money on something, then maybe take a look.
And again, it will close when that 50-unit cap is hit. So you gotta get in there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so thankfully, timeline works out really well, because I will be doing the build stream of the V1 at least tomorrow, so I have some kind of grasp on how this is all going to feel, sound, and look. So that's going to be really cool. If you want more information on this, definitely make sure to check out my build stream tomorrow. It'll probably be around 5 p.m. Pacific time. So, yep. Good stuff. Let's move on to our next topic here, which is a topic that we covered last week when it was an interest check. Now it has moved to group buy, and we have a little bit more information. So this is the Honeyboard 60 case. And like we showed off on the last week's stream, it has kind of got this... Let me find the picture, actually. It's kind of got this honeycomb design in the bottom. He has it in here, right? Am I...
yeah, the picture is in there. There you go.
That's not the one I was looking for, but that'll work. He has new ones on the... oh, that's probably why I actually had both of these open. So he actually has pictures in the interest check that are new that aren't in the group buy thread, which is kind of strange. But opening this picture here, it kind of really shows off the honeycomb design. This is the one I was looking for.
Yeah, I wonder if the group buy thread's just waiting to be approved on Keycap. If it is, and you're still watching Pitoko, I know it sounds daft, but if you report your own post on Keycap, if they haven't approved it, that is a way to prompt the mods to approve it. So just a little tip for you there as well.
What a tip.
Yeah.
What a tip. Anyways, so judging from this this picture here, which is a physical prototype, they do have the physical prototypes now done in their hands. So, like we kind of suspected last week, I know this was something you were curious about, is the holes for the honeycombs scaling as you go farther back. So this line of honeycomb on the front are actually the shallowest of the three lines of honeycombs. So the middle one's a little bit deeper, and then the one in the back deeper yet. So something that we were really curious about last week is how will this affect sound, with sound being so prominent in the community now. What's the idea behind this? Because as we'll see in just a second, this is probably not very cheap to machine, and I think the overall price is definitely reflective of that. So we want to know if this is actually going to be worth that additional price. So going back to the group by thread here, which I got some pictures in just a moment here, but let's talk about a few specs. So it is going to be a sandwich mount, and it is going to be somewhat low profile. I guess you could pretty much argue it is low profile, judging by this picture here. Jay and I were talking about it before the show a little bit. And this is going to launch at $360 before shipping without a PCB. So that is really expensive compared to a lot of other 60% cases that we see on the market. That often come in at a lower price and or include a PCB. So I think we can possibly attribute that to the fact that the honeycomb design is much, much more machine time, which does drive up cost. So is this going to be worth it, Jay? How do you think the typing experience is going to be on this?
I think there's a couple of things to think about on this one. Firstly, for me, the top case is low profile. I don't think there's any arguments about that. And there's we discussed it on the show when we talked about an interest check. The rounded corners as well. If you tried to make it high profile with the current design, the keycaps would catch. And there is gaps on the prototype on the left and right of the board, which I think they've brought in. I think from speaking to Potoko before, they brought that in slightly. But I still think there's probably some revisions I'd make in terms of the look of the board from the top. For me personally, I don't like the low profile. If you like the low profile, it's probably fine and not an issue. There's a couple of interesting things I've noticed about the plate as well before we get onto the sound profile and the typing feel. The way that the plate connects to the board, if you can go back to the split view. Sorry, I see the stream delayed, guys, so he's on it already.
I'm pretty good at following you. It's all good.
He knows where I'm going with this, I think. So if you look at the plate, there's some interesting cuts in the top left and top and bottom right corners. And that's almost like alignment tabs to keep the plate on the base, which is really, really clever idea. We don't see that kind of thing very often. We usually see it with top and bottom cases to hold them together. So, for example, the Cypher board had pins and things like that to hold it together. There's been a few other boards. The Singer's now got it on when I built the Singer last week. That's now got alignment pins between the top case and the bottom case. But to see that and I assume that this passes onto the top case as well. It's not just for the plate. It passes through the plate and it's the top as well. But it's interesting to see it's used for plate alignment on a sandwich mount board as well. So that's really good to see.
Yeah, I like that. Do you think the locations are proper? Do you think just doing top left and bottom right is the correct course of action here?
Yeah, I think that's fine because it's going to block all movement. You're adding rigidity on both sides by doing that. It's very much like when you stick a photo in a photo album. Sometimes in photo albums you don't have the two corners. I think that's fine for something that's as rigid as a plate. You've not got twisting movement to it. You've got lateral movement and horizontal movement. So I think it's perfectly fine. One wouldn't have been enough. One corner wouldn't have been enough. But doing it in two, it gives you enough of a lock to do it. I think that's fine. The second thing I note about the plate and the base design is that there is a heck of a lot of screws holding this thing together. It's a 60%. You don't need more than 4 or 6 a push. You can very much scale back on the volume of screws to hold it around. You don't need them all the way around the outside. That's not needed for something like this sort of design, unless you're worried about tolerances between your top and bottom pieces or things going bowed and things like that. And you might want to just pull and nip it all together, but that's the other thing. In terms of the actual design, though, I think the internal design of the base is quite possibly one of the most interesting things I've seen. I'm surprised that it gets deeper the further you go back, because if it was developed for a sound perspective, and I don't think Potoko's said whether it's being designed for a sound perspective or not. But if you think about it, the largest keycaps we have, whether you're talking about GMK or SA or whatever other profile other than the flat ones like DSA, the keycaps that have the loudest sound are the Row 1 ones, because there's more cap to them, there's more air inside the cap, there's more room for sound to reverberate. And what this does is effectively it puts the deeper recesses inside the honeycomb underneath those caps. So it's going to amplify the sound of those more than it is the shallower caps like your row 4 caps. I'd have been interested if it had been the other way around. So you'd had the deeper recesses underneath the shallower caps to try and even out that sound difference between the two, and you'd have had the shallower recess in the honeycomb underneath the larger caps, and it might have made the sound more even across the rows. That'd be an interesting design affectation. That might be something we could try as a community. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I think, without being able to try a prototype, and obviously no one else having this in hand and no typing tests available, it's hard to know whether this is going to be worth it or not. It's hard, I feel like, to justify spending $360 on a case and a plate and hoping it's going to be good enough, because the rest of the design is relatively minimal, and to a lot of people's dismay, we kind of have this low profile aesthetic here. A lot of people would argue that this might not be worth the price, and I'm a little worried. I'm really worried for this board, because I do think the design is kind of interesting as far as the internal of the case, and I want to see this. I want to see this at a little bit more accessible of a price point, but I don't know if that's possible.
There's two things to the price point in this. That is a lot of machining on the inside there, and as someone who, I've ordered a couple of prototypes in the past and spoken with manufacturers about making stuff and things, the small changes can make a big difference to how much things cost. In terms of one of the biggest costs with machining stuff is how many different tool pieces that you need. So how many different bits that you need to actually do the machining are, and how many times you have to change those can increase costs significantly. Certainly with the smaller manufacturers where they have to do those changes manually, and I suspect that there's been certain design elements that have been made in the way they have on this to accommodate that. So that's why you've got the large radius in the corners, because then you can just use one tool bit for the outside and the same tool bit for the inside. You don't need to change to a smaller tool bit just to get your corners. The radius is smaller on the corners, so it does alleviate that. But the main cost of this is done by taking up that honeycomb, because it's not just the honeycomb as well. It's almost kind of like when you look at that image of the honeycomb as well, it's almost stepped inside. It's almost like there's two layers going down on the way inside. So it's a lot of machine time and a lot of effort that's expended into that. I would like to see that the top is deeper, so it swallows the bottom edge of the keycaps and becomes high profile. I would like to see that, because I do think it's too low as it is. That should be a simple case in the design files of extruding it higher and just using a larger billet of aluminium to be able to do that. The case might need to come in at the sides and the top and bottom just to adjust that as well, because if you look at that exploded view that we were talking about a second ago, and if you draw where you've got the bottom case, the plate, and then the top case, if you draw the lines up the side from the top case onto the plate, there's quite a big chunk at the sides where it's still going to be the plate's going to be visible, and there's going to be space around the keycaps as well. So that's also going to have an effect on sound too. So it's going to be interesting. I think this board's got potential. It's trying new things, and I want to really encourage that. But I do think there's some challenges to the board itself.
Definitely. And I think that before we do any kind of actual group buy, which it's already started, but before this closes, at the very least, we need some kind of real decent quality sound test and kind of maybe some background information of why the honeycomb design is being used here, because to a lot of people, they see this price and it doesn't really look like it justifies the price. So we have to have some kind of measurement of how the quality is going to be here, both in terms of the materials, the manufacturing, and the typing experience, most importantly to me at least. So yeah. Definitely hoping we get some kind of more info on this as the group buy plays out here. I do think, like you said, Jay, I do think there's a lot of potential for this particular design, but I think it might need a little bit more refining.
Yeah, I think if this was a high-profile case, I would probably just pick one up just for the sake of picking one up. I would probably just jump straight on it, because I'd be interested enough in it to try at that point. The fact that it's low profile is just not for me. Isn't that kind of look and feel on the side? I'd want a nice tight, up to the keycaps from a side perspective and from a top and bottom perspective. Up vertically against the keycaps themselves as well. I would prefer a high profile top. If it did have a high profile top, or if there was an an optional extra to buy a top that is high profile separately, I would probably do that as well. But at the minute, until I see a sound test, I'm not convinced I want to join it. But again, I want to support new ideas and trying new things. And there's frosted acrylic plates and things like that they're going to have in the board as well. So I want to see sound tests of all of that. I want to see some real science go into it and show us what you're working with effectively. Show us what it does, what the impact of it is, and why it's worth that money.
Yeah, definitely. He's actually in chat right now saying thanks for the feedback.
Oh, is he?
And that he's working on a high-profile compatible top.
Oh, good. Good.
Okay, interesting. I wonder if that means there will be 2 different tops available, or if they will just go with the high-profile one. Because even though it's obviously not a test of quality or anything, but it's kind of generally accepted in the community that higher-end boards are high-profile, and like the lower tiers of boards, can be that floating keys, low-profile aesthetic. Not that it has any bearing on actual overall quality, but that's kind of the way a lot of people view it.
Yeah. So just looking at this as well. So Pitoko actually says he's going to send us a high profile version of the case to have a look at and a sample.
Wow, that'd be
great. If we can get hold of a sample, we'd love to have a look at it. Yeah.
If we can get a sample, we'll definitely do a build stream and we'll do lots of testing, and we can get some typing tests and such out for the community. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, and we can give some honest and open feedback. When it's in hand, then it's much easier to do rather than just looking at pictures and things as well. So so thank you very much for that, Pitoko. We're definitely interested in trying to help out with that and looking at an actual physical sample. The only other tiny bit of feedback I would have is that the plate is really, really open in terms of the layouts it supports, which is great from one perspective because it means that everyone can put whatever layout they want on there. But one thing that we've learned from the community looking at this is that plates are too open do tend to have a decrease in sound quality as well in certain areas, and the sound's inconsistent across similar sized keycaps across the board. I'd maybe consider tightening up what you're offering in terms of the opportunities on the plate. I like that it's universal, but that bottom row is really open. I'd probably consider only offering 2 options on the bottom row, maybe the traditional Sangan bottom row and then the standard 60% bottom row, because I think there's like 5 options in that bottom row there. Looking at it, it's 1, 2.
I feel like just because of how important sound is becoming in our community, universal plates are kind of dying out. And I had this problem a lot on my TX60, which ships with a universal plate. Great board, but also a sandwich mount design with a universal plate design. And oh my gosh, sound leaked everywhere. It was not a particularly good sounding board in my opinion. And,
I think the right answer. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I'd be worried about a similar sound leakage issue in this universal plate here.
Yeah, I think for me, it's very much a case of offer a few different options on the board, but then just make your plate files open and available to people, so they can go and make their own plates. Then there's 1001 services now in the community where you can have your own plate files made in different materials and try different things, and having open plate files is great for that. It supports the ANSI users, it supports the ISO users, it supports everyone that way, because you can just grab the file and go, oh, that plate doesn't work for me. I want this layout. I'm using this PCB. The PCB supports it. I've got my plate from whichever vendor, whether it's the Group Buy Runner or whether it's Laser Boost or whoever else you want to consider. I've got a plate that works for me.
It honestly, but in today's standards, it's not even that much more expensive for the end user to just grab a plate file and pick up the material plate of their choosing for maybe $10 or $20 more than you would have offered it in the Group Buy. It's like Jay was mentioning, it's just so accessible to get custom plates made on the community nowadays. So like if you just like Jay mentioned, do 1 or 2 different plate layouts for the Group Buy and then just release those files, you don't even have to worry about it anymore. You don't even have to worry about it at all. It's in everyone else's hands at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember the last time I built a personal board for me where I didn't just get a plate made that was customized to the layout that I want, right? It's just dead easy to do nowadays. And I think a lot more designers are becoming open and with the plate files as well. It's more common now to see the plate files available than not. So yeah, that's the only other bit of feedback I'd have about this, which
yeah. Otherwise, really, really interested to try out this Honeycomb base. I'm like super, super interested in trying out the sound profile. This is like
absolutely.
We don't know. This could be a game changer. We have no idea yet. So definitely a lot of potential there. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, we can get some kind of review unit so we can check out and build up and do some typing tests on and such.
Yeah, it'd be great to try this out. I'd be psyched for us to get hold of one of this to type on and bash around with a little bit. It'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving away from keyboards over into the key set territory. We have our first key set news of the day, which is an interest check for Enjoy PBT G81-SAV Reload.
Yes.
So this is quite something. I like this one quite a bit. So this is kind of inspired by the original Cherry G81-3000 SAV, which kind of uses this hybridized Latin / Cyrillic legends. So Cyrillic mono legends with front printed Latin legends. I think this looks beautiful.
It does. I actually have a set of these keys, the original SAV keys. I'll probably show them off on the build stream at some point, actually, because it's rare that I build ANSI. But I actually have a set of these, the original ANSI set, which is some of the OG Cherry die subs. So these are the original ones are Cherry PBT die subs from these boards. So the way you can tell that is on the old Cherry boards where the SAV comes from. This is you'd see G81-3000, for example, or 3077 or something like that, a different number code, and then you have a few letters at the end, and those letters determined what type of keycaps and what type of language was supported. So for example, you would have S, which would denote that it was a die sub or sublimated key set. You also used to have H, which stood for double shot keycaps. I can't remember what the actual word they used for, but you'd have that, and you'd have LP, which is laser printed or laser dyed. So the S stands for die sub keycaps, and then you have the A, which denoted the switches on the board that it was coming from. A used to mean blacks, so this is the picture of this particular board is a vintage black board, and then the V would then tell you about the actual language layout of the board as well. So here I can't remember what the V stands for, but it's effectively this Cyrillic set. You'd have U for US. So SAU would be the original Cherry die subs for the US, and then you'd have SAG for GB, Great Britain, the UK as well, and then DE and all of the other languages too. So that's a little bit of history about where the name of the set comes from and how those three letters actually apply to it. But in terms of this is effectively an EPBT set that's designed by, so it's back to the PBT like the original Cherry die subs were. It's in Cherry sculpt, and it's a fully die sub legends that matches that original board, as you can see in the picture. And as I say, I have one of these as well. They're absolutely beautiful keycaps. The front legends are pad printed on the original ones, and I think it's the same on this one as well. It's only die sub on the top on the originals. As far as I know, that's the same on these two. But this goes the extra mile, because instead of just having the V, which is the particular layout for Russia or whatever it was at the time, this actually has all of the other keycaps that you need to make it viable for whatever language you're in. So it has the ISO enter, the short left shift to be able to convert this to ISO. It also has other compatibility options, so you can have the different shifted shift row, so you can have a 2U shift which has got a slightly different stagger to it, and there's all sorts of accent colors and keys as well. So in terms of the ISO enter, the ANSI enter, space bars, and multiple other things as well. So this is a really, really nice key. So I really, really like this. It'd be nice to have something that pays homage to those old boards. A couple of different options on your bottom row as well. You can support pretty much any board with the bottom rows that are available here. This is really just genuinely, it's nice to see something like this come back to the community. $80 plus shipping is the price that's donated for these. And if you wanted to buy a set of those original die sub keycaps, the Cherry die subs, you're probably talking $400 minimum at the minute on the aftermarket. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, kind of a classic cherry beige colorway that we've seen plenty of times that most people tend not to get sick of. I know I don't. I love that beige kind of aesthetic. This one is going to have some red and yellow accents with it as well, so that's kind of nice.
Yep.
In case you want a little flash of color there. But yeah, I think this looks wonderful. I would have a hard time not buying this.
It's great, right? And those Cyrillic legends are fantastic. There was a couple of different die subsets, the OG ones. There was three in total that had. There was SAV, there was Hasro, and Havro as well. Those were the three letter combinations. And effectively, the choices between them were, there was this one where it was the Cyrillic main legend with the sub legends pad printed on the front. There was one where it was both die sub-legends, but in 2 different colours on the top of the cap, where you would have the standard position cherry Latin legend with a sub-legend that was pad printed in red, which was the Cyrillics as well. And then the 3rd version had the same, where it was pad printed on the top, but both legends were in black. So, you know, there is 3 different versions of this technical key set out there, plus the standard OG die subs as well. So it's really, really good to see this.
Yeah,
really
I feel like also, since the pad printing is going to be on the front of the legends where you're not actually touching them, I think pad printing's a reasonable solution here. You don't need them die subbed, in my opinion. So
yeah, there may well be die subbed. Actually, it doesn't actually say. I'm assuming that they're pad printed. So that is an assumption on my part. I'll be clear. There may be die subbed onto the front of the cap because it is possible to do that. But either way, as you say, you aren't going to touch the front of the keycaps very often, right? Apart from when you're putting them on and off the board. So the chances of wearing off the pad printing, if they are pad printed, is very, very low. And pad printing these days is probably better than what die subbing was back in the 70s and 80s anyway.
That's we've come a long way. We still like the same things, but we've come a long way.
As an aside, I've noticed that even after about 18 months solid use, I've got a couple of GMK sets I've got pad printing on, and there's no marks on them at all. The pads are still perfectly fine. So we've definitely come a long way in that technology. But I've got a lot of time for this set. People have probably seen that I've been on a bit of an OG die sub spending spree recently, and requests for certain keycap sets. I'm only missing one of the OG die sub sets now. I just need the UK version, the GB one. Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I love all this vintage stuff, and seeing this come back as a EPBT set paying homage to that is really, really positive for me.
Yeah, so the vendor here is going to be ThickThock, which I think is a relatively new vendor, not something I've heard of before. So interesting. Always kind of cool to see new vendors. Price 80 plus shipping. We can presume that's $80 if I had to guess, which is pretty reasonable if you actually get all of these keys in this kit. So,
yeah, I think if you get all of those keys for $80, that's pretty damn good.
It's almost inquisitive. Is this actually going to be broken down into kits? Because I feel like this could be broken down into 3 kits based on this render. Like maybe you have this kind of base set here, and then here is kind of like your extension kit, and then you have maybe a spacebar kit. Because I mean, otherwise,
yeah, maybe.
Otherwise, he's got what, 12 spacebars in the actual kit? You think he'll run 12 spacebars in a single base kit? That'd be kind of interesting to see.
Maybe. So if that whole kit ran for $80, then we will be looking at EPBT group buys with a different mindset going forwards.
Yeah, if this entire kit is $80, that's a very reasonable price. At least, very reasonable. I do like the idea of, since we had the last episode where that what was the set, GMK High Voltage, that had 8 space bars in the base kit, and now we're seeing potentially 12 in a base kit. Let's see how many space bars we can get in a base kit, guys. Just a base set full of space bars, nothing else but space bars in the base. Yeah, that'd be great, man. Yeah, just like one, have blanks, just 1 U blanks, call them all space bars.
Why not? Yeah,
GMK spacebar, just space-bars. That's it. Anyways, moving on the interest check train, we have another GMK set this time. This is an interest check for GMK Noel, which is not based on anything Christmassy, if that's what you're thinking. This is based on a character from the anime/manga Sora no Method, which I've never actually seen, so I have no bearing on this particular theme, but we do have a theme, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of renders or anything. We have this one from keycaprenders.com, which it's kind of hard to tell. It doesn't really give you a good indication of the key set some of the times on this website, unfortunately. As you can see here, and a lot of people have commented in this thread, actually, that the keys look metallic. This is pretty indicative of keycaprenders.com right now, and I hope it's something they can actually get to fix. That'd be pretty great, in my opinion. But how do you feel about this set, the set in general?
So, again, like yourself, that Sora no Method, and I apologize for pronouncing that wrong, but I don't know that I don't know that reference or anything like that. Again, I would like to see some proper renders of this. I appreciate that people using Keycap renders because it's free, but I'd like to see some actual proper renders. It's better to spend a little bit of money and get some real proper feedback on what the Keycap set's going to look like. A couple of things for me. One, I think the base kit's a chunky base kit. It's got coverage for pretty much everything. It's very much following in the current vein of Heine's set for Violet on Cream. It's kind of got that kind of level of coverage in it, which is kind of a step down from the big old base kits we used to see, like Calm Depths, which is a huge base kit, but it's a step up from the kind of cut down base kits that we've seen for things like Striker and Hamon and things like that as well. So it's kind of that in that middle ground space, but it covers most layouts. I just glanced at this. It is laid out a little bit differently to how most keys laid out, but you can get coverage for most things. HHKB's there, 65%, TKL, and full size there, obviously. ISO UK, which I always love to see, as you'll know. In terms of the actual colours that are chosen themselves, a couple of things on that. One, they've chosen Pantones. I think we should probably try and see if there's RAL equivalents. GMK are much better at producing RAL colours, as we've talked about numerous times on the show, but they are using WS1 for the alpha colour, so that's a stock colour as well. So where you're trying to match the colours, try and do it from a RAL pack. You can pick up a RAL pack for $13-14 on eBay these days, a K7 pack, which will give you most colours, or enough colours to start to really hone in on what you want. So that would be the first bit of advice. Secondly, I think the pastel colours or the pastel colours look quite nice on this. I think it'd be a really nice calm set. I would like to see some really high quality renders to see what that's actually going to translate to in real life on a board. I would be a little bit worried about Legend visibility on the alphas. It looks like there might be some contrast issues there. It's quite a pale blue, but I think if that's legible IRL, then I think this is really nice. I'd probably pick this up because I really kind of like the colours. I think the blue is really nice, and I think the pink accents it well. It almost feels like a slightly different. It feels like a pastel take on 9009 type colorways to me. It just kind of feels quite nice.
Yeah, I think it does look pretty good as well. I'll definitely be waiting on the more renders, which is on the plan to do list, as well as many other things. And at the end, he kind of has this GIF of what I'm assuming is the character from the anime. So maybe kind of a reference GIF for the colors in case anyone was curious. I like how he says at the bottom here, hope this gains traction so that Beast Troll MC can get the key set of his dreams. Shout out to Beast Troll, who does occasionally tune into the show. He's a very popular game streamer who I don't know actually what he specializes in, but he plays a lot of Osu, which is pretty cool. He's very good at it. I used to watch his streams every now and then. But yeah, so shout out to him. Hopefully the set can come to be and he can get his own set.
Yeah, just as an aside, one thing I would say is that whilst I like a good interest check, I do think this is it needed a little bit more work to make it a really, really good interest check. I can see why people want to put their ideas out there as soon as they can, and I completely get why people do that. It's completely valid why people do that, but just a little bit more work. I think he's expecting actual renders on Friday, waiting that extra day or two to put the interest check up until you've got that proper renders. Yeah. Sometimes it's a better way of doing
especially, and I don't mean to sound biased here or like put ourselves on a pedestal, but especially if we're going to be covering it on the show, which we cover a lot of interest checks and group buys. If you don't have the info out there, then we don't know everything, so we can't tell people about everything. So just something to consider if you want us to check things out on the show. The better your interest check is, the better we can cover it, and the more information everyone will have, and people won't have as many questions, or we won't have to try to figure out how to read this interest check, which doesn't have a ton of information. I mean, this interest check's not awful or anything, but it definitely could have more information. And the renders in particular, you got to get those more professional renders up. There's so many people that do a great job in the community rendering now, all across different price ranges. Some of them even do it for free, and you could just get much nicer renders, and it really sells the idea a lot more, because when people like Jay and I look at this, we don't really see the set. Like, you have this one render, which is, we'll call it a not very good render. And then you kind of have this base kit breakdown, which is nice. Got to know the compatibility. Thumbs up on that. But we really don't know what this set looks like. This is not really indicative of what the set could look like. So it's almost like the interest check doesn't matter right now. just because we still don't know what the set's going to even remotely look like.
And I think this is because the community has changed significantly. So I completely agree with what Brian said. I think even just one good render would completely enable you to understand what that is. And keycaprenders.com is great for just testing ideas and stuff like that, but it's not good for sharing what your ideas want. But one thing I would like to say is 18, 24 months ago, if you'd have done this and you'd have had that one render at the top that looks a little bit metallic from Keycap renders, and you've had the base kit, that was all it took to run a group buy, and then people, got key sets and were either happy or they weren't because they had just the base kits. But there was a lot of group buys run just off a KLE layout base kit like that first base kit image in the old days, or the early days of the community in the hobby coming to the western parts of the world. But where we're at now, we've just expanded so much on that a good solid interest check and good solid renders to show what the key set, the board, whatever it is you're trying to move into group buy is just so much more important.
Basically what Jay's trying to say, but much more eloquently, is don't half-ass your interest checks. Make sure you have everything that you want in that interest check when you launch it. Don't launch a very vague idea and then add to it as the days go by, because you'll lose a lot of traction that way. Because people like us will see this and will see that it's kind of lacking in information and renders and be like, whatever, and then we'll just throw it off to the side and not really care about it. But if you have a really awesome interest check with great renders right out of the bat, people get invested in that. Like, this is a set I actually want now. It'll look great on my Jane or whatever. Like, it's you gotta sell the idea. You can't just throw something muddled out there. So I don't know. I don't mean to sound like an asshole or anything, but that's just kind of how I view it.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is pretty fair. I think the interest track is all important now. We're in a stage where there's so much competition for what sets are going to run. If you don't have a solid IC to get solid backing from the community, and solid chats with vendors to make sure that they're comfortable with what you want it to run and that they're going to run it the way you want it to happen. We're not in a position anymore where just any random Joe can run a group buy with GMK. That just doesn't happen now. You need to go through vendors to be able to get the market share, to be able to get the promotion, to be able to get everything. And for that, you need a solid interest check that's going to engage the community rather than give them, drip feed them information. Don't get me wrong, it's great to update your interest checks later on once you do have more information and things like that. But you need that solid footing to start out on. And I think this got a ton of potential. And just one or two renders, which was 1 or 2 days later, would have made a massive difference to how this, to the amount of knowledge we would have about what this is. So I know we've kind of stepped away from talking about this particular set, and we're talking to do a bit of an explanation of how to set up a good interest check here. But just that one good render would have significantly changed how we'd have been able to talk about it.
It speaks volumes, yeah. Especially because again, not trying to sound biased, but Top Clack has been doing this for almost 3 years now, and having this information and having the renders makes it's so easy for people to get invested in your set, and it makes vendors be like, hey, maybe I could run this set. This is a nice looking set. I like this. The interest check's well laid out. This guy knows what he's doing. You gotta reel people in, because like Jay mentioned, everyone's doing everything these days. I mean, there's what, like 10 GMK sets running this month alone. Like all through vendors, like it's ridiculous. It's very competitive right now. So the better you can make your interest checks, the more promotion you can do, etc. Like, get people into it. It's a big deal. Anyways, sorry for the rambling, guys. Let's move on to our next interest check, which is probably this might be my favorite interest check I've ever seen in my life. So this is the interest check for GMK Yugo, which is a small, unassuming hatchback regarded by many as one of the worst road vehicles of all time, yet it holds a special place in the hearts of all those who grew up somewhere in the former Yugoslavia. So already we got a theme here. We can already see where this user is from, basically the kind of things that goes on in his head and the kind of theme he's really trying to pull together here. Awesome start.
Yeah.
And as you read through the interest check, which I highly suggest all of you do, the wording is exquisite. It is so fantastic, the way he writes this interest check. Absolutely love it. Anyways, Jay, tell us about the set and maybe your feelings about it.
Okay. So Amir actually shared this with, who's been part of the team that's been looking at, shared this with me yesterday. I was a bit excited about it, or the day before. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was the day before actually, now, because it's Friday for me currently, so it was Wednesday when they shared it with me. But Vormindoran, who is Constexpa, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, is in chat right now. So thank you very much for sharing this with the community. So first things first, so I can talk a little bit about the car. I have driven one of these cars a long time ago when I was a bit younger. I wasn't in Yugoslavia or Slavia, but I think I was in Austria at the time when I drove one of these. And what they say about it being the worst road vehicle of all time is pretty true. The metal's that thin that you can actually bend the sides of the cars by pushing on it too hard. It was a bit of a. It was a lad's holiday, and there's 4 of us in the car, and the 2 guys that were in the back, they actually bowed the side of the car up by pressing each other, play fighting in the back of the car. Anyway, different story aside. But these cars are really common in that kind of era, and they're kind of classic, and everyone's driven one at some point. They're most people's first car, all of that kind of stuff. It's one of those things. So the first thing I want to say is that they've picked out the colorways from the car itself. You can see there right at the very top of the thread there is one of the particular cars, the GV car, which stands for Good Value, if I remember correctly, which is a great name for a car. The Yugo Good Value Sport. Right, okay, great. But what they've done is they've taken the colours from the car and kind of been inspired by that, tweaked them slightly to make it work as a key set. And what they've come up with is the Yugo 45 kit. Now, this is a base kit that's a little bit unusual compared to what we normally see in the community, because first and foremost, it supports an ISO layout. So this is Yugoslavian ISO. It's not British ISO. It's not Norda UK. It's something we don't see very often in terms of GMK sets, because this kind of coverage isn't usually done. Because it's based on the guys from that kind of area of the world, this is kind of how the base kit is. Now, it does offer ANSI coverage. You can cover an ANSI keyboard with this. Your legends are just going to be the Yugoslavian ones where you're not used to them in the base kit. So this is no different to what every other ISO user has. Sorry, guys, but every ISO user has this with the current sets where we don't have the right legends for UK ISO or Norda UK or whatever else you want to call it. So this offers you coverage, but it doesn't offer you the right legends. And guess what, guys? It doesn't offer the UK guys or most of the other EU guys the right legends either. But what it does do is it gives you something that's a little bit different. So this is the Yugoslavian layout, and it gives you their their kind of layout and their kind of keycap set and an experience that's unlike anything you're used to. So it's not about whether it gives you your language coverage. This is more about the fact that it offers you the chance to experience what someone else lives with day in and day out. In terms of what you can actually cover with the base kit, so you can cover a TKL, you can cover 60%, you can cover 65%, you can cover an ANSI layout, you can cover a Sangam bottom row, you can cover an ISO layout. All of those are absolutely possible, bearing in mind that you will have some unique and unusual legends that you're not used to in the base kit. If that's too much for you, though, you can look at the Capitalism kit, which is a great name for a kit, by the way. Capitalism kit is a great one.
So
and
good.
what this does is this kind of tweaks the legends that are available to you to give you US legends. So you can take away all of that Yugoslavian goodness, which I really like and I would love to use, and you can replace those keycaps with the traditional US standard ANSI legends, ANSI legends. So that gives you your period and your commas and your question marks and all of that back into place as well. The other thing that it does is it also means that it covers US ISO, but it doesn't cover UK ISO. So literally the one thing I would change to this kit is I would just add a row 3 tilde hash, and then it's almost UK ISO because the 2 is the same in the UK, and the 3, the pound symbol, the hash symbol, is close enough. So that one key would make it great for UK ISO users as well. So that's the only change I'd make to that kit personally, and I've been very, very personally biased on that one, I'll be honest. But the Yugo 55 kit as well will also give you a numpad and a few other keys as well. Again, just some more compatibility keys in there as well. So that's a great little kit as well. It gives you 1800 CP96 keyboards, that kind of stuff. And then the next kit, which is a spacebar kit, which is called the Cabrio kit, which is a great name again. These kits are named so well. I'm really impressed with the name of the kits. that gives you space-bars, mod-colored space-bars, and alpha-colored space-bars to be able to mix and match, as well as a separate B key for those Alice-type layouts that we talked about earlier on as well, and a couple of split space-bar options too. Interesting enough as well, you can't really see in that particular render, but there is a pad printed stripe that's going to be, UV printed stripe that's going to be on the front of the GMK caps as well, giving it that retro sport look. So when we looked at the picture of the car earlier on, it had that nice stripe line across it, which made it look really sporty and fast, and the Camaro of Yugoslavia, or whatever you want to call it.
Good value.
The good value. It's got that good value go faster stripe across the spacebar as well. Those are going to be UV printed on there as well, so it's something we don't often see from GMK sets, having UV or pad printed legends onto spacepars, but it's going to be available for this one. And then the final kit as well is called the Zastava kit, and I hope I'm pronouncing that closely. It was the company that actually gave us the Yugo, so this is the actual company that made the Yugo, and this kit it gives you some Serbian legends. So, or I assume these are Serbian legends. Cyrillic kits.
This kit focuses a little bit more on the Slavic countries, as well as Bulgaria, Serbia, and apparently basic support for Macedonia. Which is
great,
amazing that like all of this is being taken into consideration here, and we're getting some new molds here for this as well. Like it really is absolutely stunning. Apparently, this is also the first non-Russian Cyrillic kit in any modern custom keycap set, which is also cool.
It is, yeah.
So this just looks spectacular, dude. This set is really winning me over here, and I feel like at the very least, I'm gonna have to pick up a base kit for this.
Yeah, and do you know what, right? I think the one thing that we struggle on as a community, the one thing that we fall out about a lot, is different legends and people wanting the legends that support their language layout and all of that kind of stuff. We have the Nordic argument, we have the ISO versus the ANSI argument, and this kind of does away with all that. It says, it doesn't matter, guys, what you're arguing about. We want a Yugoslavian set, so we're going to have a Yugoslavian set. Boom, there you go, guys. This is what it's based on. It's really open, it's really honest, it's really blunt. And it's a case, look, you've got coverage. It doesn't matter what keyboard you have, you can cover it. You're going to have to put up with the wrong legends. We've had to put up with the wrong legends for long enough. We've never had a Yugoslavian ISO set before. Now we're going to have one. So there you go. You can cover your board. There's a key for you to be able to do it. It's there in the base kit. Why not try something new? Why not try having these fun legends? Some of these legends are great. Look at that in the ANSI pipe key that goes above you at the NSI enter. Now you've got that wonderful umlauted Z key up there, the Z key. That's a great key.
It's amazing.
Why not have that? Why not have that? You guys know what it is. You guys can't touch type.
I want to use this. I want to use this set the way it was intended to be used.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is just one of those things where like I feel like this interest check gets me so invested, because this guy put in so much effort to get this theme, and he paints this vision of how awful this car is, but you want it anyways. And like, shout out to using RAL instead of Pantone. We didn't miss that, trust me. The breakdowns are great, and you know what? I don't know how well this set is gonna sell. I feel like it might not sell very well, but I'll definitely buy a base kit.
I'm definitely in on this one. I'm drifting, but I'm not getting angry. I'm just invested in this, and I'm excited for this. I think it's great. I'm not angry. I'm impressed with this, and I'm in love with this set. That's the thing. Just stepping back from some of the stuff we talked about, the other thing we want to talk about is the colors. So I think the colors work nicely together. The red is a really nice shade of red. I think it works well with the creamy color of the alphas. It's got that whole kind of autumnal feel to it as well. I kind of like that. Just before the show, actually, Brian, you said it reminded you of another set that I completely agree with, so I'll let you talk about that. But yeah, I think it's really great.
Yeah, to me it looked pretty reminiscent of Jukebox, which was a set that happened in 2015, an SA profile that was by Living Speed Bump, and that'll forever be one of my favorite SA sets and SA colorways. So yeah, I'm totally fine with that here as well. I think it looks somewhat reminiscent of that, and that makes me happy. But I just, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't even matter. This set could have been like almost any color, and just because of the interest check alone, it makes me want to buy the set. That's how
absolutely.
that's how invested I got just by reading through the set. You know, seeing this picture, seeing him talk about this, the breakdown of the kits, the names of some of these kits. Like, I want this theme. It doesn't even matter what the colors are to me.
Yeah, completely get exactly what you're saying. The other thing I wanted to call out as well is the renders. Some of these renders at the bottom with the old school mats where you could drive your little toy cars around and things like that. I'm sure we all had them as kids. I had one. You know, the fact that they've done that, and Max Surfy's got to be the guy behind this. Haven't looked, but he's got to be the guy behind this. With the little Yugo toy car on there, and things like Sarajevo mentioned, and all of this kind of places that you can go and things. This is such a nice set of renders, and they look photorealistic. They look so good.
Yeah,
really impressed with Max Surfy. Yeah, he does say by Max Surfy. Yeah, really impressed with Max Surfy. Yeah, fantastic.
I cannot wait for this set.
It's interesting. It's unique. It's different. It's doing things in a different way. It's forcing us to challenge what our understanding of an acceptable keycap set is. It doesn't have to be the right legends. It doesn't have to be comply to the standardized base kit rules that we've had forever and a day. This is showing us something new, something fresh, something different, something Yugoslavian, and something that's good value, just like the car. So I do you know what? It doesn't matter how much this base kit is. I'm going to buy one. I think it's great. Such a good idea.
Yeah. Hopefully we will get a relatively low price though, because I do like myself some value. So the only vendors that we have confirmed so far are the is the EU vendor, rather mykeyboard.eu. Everything else still up in the air, but hopefully we can get some more information on that soon. November of this year is their estimated GBD. That's what they're aiming for. So we still got a few months out on that, and of course he has some credit and shout out section. Really well laid out interest check. Very happy about this. Yeah.
The only other thing I could say, I think a couple of people talked about this in chat. I was going to mention it was on my list of things to mention, but can we get a toy car with the keycap set, please, guys? Because
an add-on.
Add-on pack, or something that you can buy extra. Sometimes we have these T-shirts and mugs and whatever else that run with key sets. A little toy Yugo would be great. In fact, I might jump on eBay and see if you can get a Matchbox one. I don't know if I assume they've done it.
Don't trail off too hard, Jay. We still have some topics left to go.
Oh, you can. No, you can. Please just look at this really quickly. You can. I'm going to paste a link in the chat. You can actually go and buy the Yugo. It's a slightly different model, but they do exist, guys. They do exist. You can buy the Yugo cars on there. There's other links to different ones, but they exist, guys. They can be done. So that's another. A Zastava car, but I think it's a slightly different one. But
fantastic. Oh man! All right, so make sure to show interest in this if this is your thing, and hoping it comes soon. Excited for this.
And keep an open mind to it, guys. It's different, but keep an open mind to it.
Yeah, definitely keep an open mind. All right. Speaking of open mind, let's move on to our next topic, which is interest check, sort of an interest check. For JTK's new plastic keycap trays. I think the English is a little wonky here because I don't think his English is particularly great. But I believe Max is actually going to be the name of the trays. Capital MAX is what I'm going to assume, and they are made of polycarbonate. So I'm going to open up the other link here. So just to kind of show you guys what this is. So these are effectively keycap trays, kind of like you'd see via GMK, except for GMK trays. Not my favorite at the very least, but hopefully we get some higher quality ones to the market soon. But for now, JTK's kind of got a solution they're trying to work on as well. And these are massive.
Yeah, they are. So they're 410 millimeters by 250 millimeters there, and you can store about 281 new caps in there. Now, what I would say about these is they're effectively the same as two GMK trays laid out. So they're roughly the same width as a GMK tray, but it's almost like having two laid out next to each other vertically on your desk. And whilst that might be quite large and it's probably going to be quite costly from a shipping perspective, I'd have liked to have seen this in tiers. What I will say is that these look significantly better quality than anything we've got on the market today. They look very similar to how the trays that I bought off Taobao work in terms of their two hard pieces of plastic that clip together. They'll support HSA primarily. That's what they've been designed for. The new key set that I shared on stream a couple of weeks ago that my keyboard and JTK are working on together. But it also supports SA and the standard cherry profile that JTK do as well. So you will be able to fit that in. And you're going to be able to fit pretty much a whole key set and extra packs and whatever else you buy in these as well. You know, it's going to fit all of the extra kits in there. You're not going to struggle for space in them, which is a really good thing too. And they're also stackable from what I understand as well. They've got like a slight indent in them, so you can actually stack them. So if you've got multiple key sets, you can actually stack them on top of each other a lot easier than you can current GMK ones or whatever else you're using as well. So I think there's a lot of benefits. But the drawback is that they are really, really big. They're absolutely huge in terms of size. But it's good to see that we've got more storage solutions. So I don't know what you think on this, Brian, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, totally fine. I mean, a lot of people like trays. I'm not usually one of them. I don't have a ton of space, so for me, just bags in a drawer may seem barbaric, but for me, it's really effective, and I save a lot of space that way. But if I were to do trays, I'd much rather have something like this as opposed to GMK trays, which are really flimsy quality, if I'm being honest. We talked to Andy Living Speed Bump of GMK at the Seattle meetup, and that was one of my primary complaints. We need better trays, and he's like, "We hear you," and that's like all he said. So hopefully we get some kind of version out of GMK as well. But for this, it looks pretty darn good. One thing I'm a little worried about though is space bars. Can you actually fit space bars in here? Because they say you can store 281 U caps, 2 ISO enters, 2 by 2 U keys, which is like big ass enter basically, and like some DSA keys that are 2 by 2, I guess, which is really rare otherwise. But how do space bars fit in here?
Yeah, so the horizontal bars, you can still fit space bars in. I think they're just saying that you can fit this number of 1U keys, and this is how wide they are from a unit perspective. But you can put space bars in there just fine. They're not segregated, so it's a literal square for 1U keys. It's still separated into rows, but that's just the number of units you can fit in there in total. So you're going to be absolutely fine to fit those in. The reason why they say they can do the ISO enter keys is because they'll have a gap in where those horizontal row separators are, so that the ISO key can go over both, or the if you wanted to keep your vertical enter key from the numpad vertical, you could put that in as well. Otherwise, you could turn it horizontal and lay it in. So yeah, you'll be able to have larger than 2U keys horizontally in there. So space bars and your large shift keys and whatever else, it'll all fit just fine.
Yeah, Nebula actually pointing out in chat, if these are 250 millimeters, which they are claiming, they will fit just barely on a standard IKEA bookshelf, which is kind of interesting.
Nice.
That's a fun fact.
I'm glad you measured that.
Yes, that's pretty important.
Gasp with the comment about your Q key. That's how you lose your Q key. Wow.
Oh, I got no rebuttal for that. It's the only keycap I've ever in my life lost, and it's still not certain it was my fault. It's not 100% certain. Well, I mean, it's probably my fault, but I'll find that key eventually. It'll happen.
I hope it turns out. But yeah, I think these are good. I'm interested to see the actual final price of these and what they look like. I think that there's. I know that my keyboard are working with JTK quite a lot. I know that they want to offer these in the EU at some point. So be good to see them there as well. I'm sure there'll be a US vendor or a group buy or something at some point as well. So yeah.
Yeah, because these are, from what it looks like, these are not actually available yet. But
not yet. No. Soon.
Yeah. Soon.
I asked for a date the other day, and just soon is all I got told. So,
cool. Yeah. So hopefully we'll know in the very near future. Moving on, we have an interest check for some switches. The Koala switches, which if you've been around for a little while, you might have actually heard of before. There's a little bit of a backstory on this. So these switches are actually designed by Beep, who is a very popular designer in the community as far as the colorways go. This is designed by Beep. These are manufactured by a manu called Duroc, which have done a few other things in the past, but they're not so known in our community for custom switches at the very least. But who knows? Maybe they could be pretty good. They are actually, from what I see, are the manufacturer for the T1 switches, which are now discontinued due to some drama. So, do you want to give us a little bit of a backstory on this, or should I?
Yeah, well, I can cover it. So there was a little bit of drama earlier on this year where the manufacturer of the T1 switches that were effectively they were touted as Holy Panda clone switches, but they were actually closer to being Zeal V2 clone switches. And to be honest, they were nice switches in their own right. They were a cheaper budget version, 95% of the way there. I think I covered them in a bit of a review on Clack, our blog, and they were nice switches in their own right. It turned out that manufacturer was not necessarily following the rules in terms of some of the things that they were producing, and they were KBDfans had got hold of what have been affectionately termed Stelios, which were effectively fake Telio switches that happened to be by the same manufacturer as the T1 switch, which meant that the T1 switch was cancelled and won't be running anymore, as KBDfans decided to cut ties with that particular manufacturer. Since then, that manufacturer has done other projects. They've done the Everglide switches, which are very similar to the Stelios. They're actually they're nice switches in their own right, and if they'd never tried to badge them as Telios and try to sell them as that, if they'd have just come out with their own line, I think they would have been quite, nicely accepted, because they're good quality switches. They feel pretty great, and they're a good price. So that's broadly it. So KBDfans has parted company from them, but there's now the Beep switch with Fropsy is going to run through the Koala switch. But that's it in a nutshell. I don't know if you want to add or tweak anything on that, Brian, but that's broadly the story behind it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You could say that the Koala switch is going to be like a recolored T1. So if T1 switches were something you were interested in or you wanted more of, you might not be able to get anymore ever again, but you might be able to get the Koala switch, which should feel pretty much identical. Obviously, you can tell by these pictures it is using kind of an opaque housing as opposed to the T1's translucent housing. But yeah, so the housing made of nylon, nothing too uncommon there. Stem is POM, pretty much all stems are POM. Pretty standard stuff here. 62 grand gold spring, if that's your thing. And the color scheme is actually meant to match with Extended 2048, which is a key set manufactured by Enjoy PBT and designed by Beep. So both designed by Beep, trying to match the colorways there. The first run of the group buy will be limited to 150 orders with an MOQ of 10,000. Now that's that's just under 70 switches per order. It's actually, I did the math before the show. It's about 67 switches per order. Yeah, I actually put time into things sometimes, Jay. It happens. But
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
You were laughing at me. You were laughing at me. But anyways, yeah. So it's rated on about 70 switches per order. 10,000 switch MOQ, actually very, very small. If you go to any other manufacturer, like even Gateron, for example, I think their MOQ is 20,000 or 40,000. It's quite a bit higher.
Now,
and even that's like not even very high compared to Cherry's MOQ, which is like 250,000 or something like that. So 10,000 switches, very, very minimal here. It's really easy to make that MOQ if the switch is actually interesting enough. And I think this won't be a problem hitting MOQ, I feel like. But there is the argument of, how ethical is this? How moral is this? Based on what has happened with...
Just before we get onto that, just in terms of the MOQ, I think the reason why this is so low is because the Koala switches are actually for sale. You can get them on Taobao now through Durgong, and I think that a couple of other vendors have got these incoming. So when the original Koala switch was going to run through KBDfans, this is the bit we didn't cover when I was giving the recap a second ago. When the original Koala switch was going to run through KBDfans and T1, I think we talked about that interest check way back when as well, probably March time, April time, something like that. I think that the manufacturer just made the switches anyway, and now Fropsy is going to run a group buy for those switches to bring it to the Western community. I know that is it Holton who's behind Prime KB? I think he's getting some in. As I say, I know you can buy them from Durgong as well because I've seen them when I've been browsing Taobao myself. So I think they actually did get made back then, and that's why they're available. So there probably was maybe 250,000 of them made or whatever it was at that point. And now Fropsy is saying they want to buy at least least 10,000 of them directly from the manufacturer to get them into there, to easier over to the Western community. So again, good to see that these things are happening. I hope Beeb got his royalties for the run, whether it was done through KBDfans or not. But yeah, be interested to see them over here. Just moving on to what you were saying, Brian, around the ethics of this one. So I think the way I look at this is if this manufacturer hadn't made the Stelios under the, or tried to fake the Telio switches, if they had just released their own switch, which is a Telio clone, that's fine. We have clone switches, Gateron switches exist because they're a clone of Cherry switches. Patents have expired and all of that kind of stuff. If they'd have just released a switch and said, this is our linear switch, which we want to do, and done this under the Everglide brand, which is under part of the same company, if they'd have just released the Everglide switches and said, we've got these Everglide switches, they come in these colors, what do people think of them? I think they would have done just fine on their own. The negativity comes that they try to pass off their product to something else to increase the volume of sales or increase the price, whatever it was, whatever their rationale for doing that was. So other than, if they hadn't have done that, I think we wouldn't have even been discussing this today in terms of, is there any drama about it? I think we'd been very much a case of, this is a new Switch company doing good things. And they've now trying to repair that reputation. And if repairing that reputation means that they do the Panda switches and some other things to bring the T1 switch back under a different name, then perhaps that's the right way to get back into the good graces of the community. I'm all for rehabilitation. I get that people and companies and things make mistakes. Wei has certainly atoned for his sins on this particular matter. I know he's been financially affected, and he's now got proper licensing deals with Zeal and Gateron to provide Zeal switches correctly and all of that kind of stuff. There's a whole piece of drama around that, which we did talk about at the time. So I'm all for companies reforming and coming back under a new guise to try and provide a better service, and more competition within the Switch space is always good. So I think that at this point the drama's passed. It's long enough ago that we can start to look at this company now and take them seriously as an individual competitor in the market. I think it's now the right time to stop talking about whether it's ethical or not. That we should just treat the company as any other Switch company now, and we should try their new offerings that they're producing under their own brand and give them a shot. And that's kind of where my current thoughts are on it.
Yeah, it's hard because it could go deeper than that. I mean, if they're using molds from the T1s, which maybe KBDfans paid for, let's say, because they were, the initial vendor for that Switch, like, is this using the same molds as the T1s, which chances are it probably is, because they were originally going to do that when they were going to be running on KBDfans. So yep. It's tough because you can't really say these are new Switches, because they're not. They're recolored T1s that were, going to be available on KBDfans at one point, under the same name, if I'm not mistaken, same name, same everything. So it's hard. I like you. I do believe in second chances. I do want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I want to see some public statements from Duroc and see like what they think of things right now and kind of what their plan to move towards the future is. I don't think I've quite forgiven them about everything yet, but I do think that it would be nice for them to do their own thing and put out some more switches, because like you mentioned, the Everglide switches, the T1s and stuff, it's not like they're bad switches. Like they're decent switches at a decent price, but we can't have people continually stealing designs or doing unethical things.
I agree
in our community. So I think we need some more information from Duroc themselves, and maybe it's actually worth us reaching out to see how they answer some emails or something. But
yeah, we could do that. I think the other side of it as well is we have to remember that the rules are very different in China, and there was a whole piece of drama that we probably didn't cover on the show at the time that has actually significantly changed the way that that Chinese customs deal with mechanical keyboard switches. There is now a new directive in China about mechanical keyboard switches and their origins and how intellectual property is managed there. It actually changed quite a lot significantly over there. There was a lot of change from that perspective. I know, speaking with Wei on this subject, there's been some significant political movements just specifically around mechanical keyboard switches because of the challenges that it had. So, and for all intents and purposes, I think we can treat this as we should try this as a community. We should give them a chance, and we should try, increase the amounts of competition in there. It's you can't say mad at everyone for everything forever. And every company's done something bad at some point or other. You look at Microsoft or Apple or any of the other big American companies or even UK companies. Like they've all done something wrong at some point, and they've all turned for the sins, and we still buy their products. And we have to bear in mind that the community is still growing, and if there is a product out there that's good for the community, then as long as we're being honest and open about it going forwards, we should be not quick to forgive and forget, but we should offer second chances. Yeah, we should keep an open mind, offer second chances, and if this company does something else again, then second chances be done. Then perhaps we shouldn't support them as a community anymore if something else happens that's untoward and unacceptable within the community. But I think at the minute this switch is interesting enough that we should give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone is going to make their own decisions, and whether you guys think this is ethical or not. Whether people should have second chances or not, that's obviously going to be up to the general populace, and there's not a lot of the rest of us can even do about it. But like Jay said, second chances usually okay. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, people will ultimately vote for their wallets too, with for better or worse. So
yeah, I can see what I'm just reading through chat. I can see what Nebula and apologies for pronouncing this wrong, but Iwane. Yeah, I can completely see your guys' opinion on it. I can completely see why you don't want to support it, and that's completely fine. That's a completely valid opinion to take on this kind of stuff. I completely get that. There's no right or wrong answers here, but what we have to consider is that if we're going to be so negative about something because something's been done wrong at some point, are we ever going to get to a point where we can encourage people to come back into the community when they've done things wrong or made mistakes? People do make mistakes, they make silly decisions. That happens, it's part of life. We've all made something. We all have that one decision that we made in our life that when we think back about it, we cringe and really regret doing it. I've got thousands of them.
I've got so many of those.
Yeah, it happens, and I get that this is on a big scale, and I get that there was theft of molds or thefts of molds and stuff like that, and licensing stuff and things, but it's not the first time this has happened. I mean, this has happened with all of the big companies in America. You look at the 500 biggest companies in America, and you'll see this left, right, and center. Corporate espionage is nothing new, and we're too small of a community to hold grudges for too long. If we start to hold grudges, we'd hold grudges against everyone. We'd hold grudges against Way. We'd hold grudges against Zeal and all of the other people because of little things that they've said or done. And I just don't think that that's the right way of going for it. Second chances should be a thing. And if after a second chance they prove themselves wrong, if Sprit stops, fulfilling orders again and disappears with everyone's money and stuff like that, and people can't get refunds and things, then absolutely we shouldn't support it. Be twice. If this company releases another Switch next week that's I don't know, ripping off some other Switch, say, I don't know, box clickies or something like that, box navies or something like that, then absolutely we shouldn't support that. But I think we should give another chance, and we should try and grow the community in the right way and promote positive behaviours than just necessarily punishing bad behaviours. That's not the right way. Rehabilitation is always better than outright punishment.
Yeah,
we see that a lot in the penal systems and everything else that we've got in both the UK and the US. And rehabilitation is by far a better solution than just constant penalisation.
Yeah, and as an entire community, we actually have a lot of influence to guide these people and these vendors, these companies, these manufacturers to do what is morally and ethically right, and show them what can be done and what can be accomplished if they actually follow through on something like this. So I mean, it's really easy to just cast a manufacturer, brand, or whatever aside and be like, oh, they did something wrong once, like screw them, they're awful, don't ever do anything with them ever again. It's easy to say that, and you're not necessarily wrong if you say that, like Jay said, but just
it's a valid opinion.
It's a valid opinion. Just keep an open mind, everyone. And that's kind of one of the things we strive to do on this show is to have everyone have all the information they need. Keep an open mind, make your own decisions, just make sure they're informed.
Yeah, yeah. And just a couple of quotes here that I just want to say is NP says we can show them what can be done morally and ethically by not buying the stolen things. Yeah, I get that, and you know that's fine. I don't think anything in this particular one has been stolen or anything like that. From what I know of the situation, the these are not the same molds that the T1s came from, because the T1 molds, when I was talking about some manufacturers, the T1 molds were designed for certain types of plastic, which is the clear housings. This type of nylon that's a different thing is a different mold entirely. For the external parts of the switch, I'm not sure on the stem, but for the external parts of the switch, it isn't the same mold. So there's bits and pieces there. And Nebulant said something around companies are not people. No, but companies are run by people, and you can never take the human element out of that. And as humans, we shouldn't. Life's too short to constantly be angry about things and to constantly hold a grudge against things, and stuff like that as well. So it's always worth bearing that in mind.
Yeah, this is a conversation we could have for the rest of the day and on through next week. It doesn't really matter. I mean, like, at the end of the day, everyone will decide whether, they should be supported or not. And, again, no one's necessarily right or wrong here. Some people will say that, once you've made a mistake like this, that there's no coming back and that's just it. It's over. And some people will be okay with giving people a second chance. But, again, human element. It is what it is. If you don't want to support them, then don't support them. Definitely. People will vote with their wallets.
Yeah, just to MP Spears, the same material. The previous T1s were a mix of nylon and polycarbonate. They're not the same material, and the molds don't support the same materials. The molds are very material specific, and these are different molds from what I've heard from speaking to a few people about before the show over the past couple of days. So it's been something that's been going on in the background. Well, I've had a few conversations with different people about these. So it's like you can't make a clear switch in the Panda molds, the OG Panda molds, the ones that the Master for the Holy Pandas, because they're designed for that particular type of material. You can't do a clear polycarbonate housing. So it's just worth bearing that in mind.
Yeah. All right. So at the end of the day, make your own decision. We're not trying to push you one way or the other. Just keep an open mind, basically, is what we're trying to get out of here. Anyways, enough of that drama. Let's move into some more drama.
Yeah. Okay. Drama on drama on drama. Okay. This was supposed to be a quick show.
Yeah. I guess this is going to turn into a 3-hour show, just because there's so much internal things going on, I guess. So this is as you can see, this is an interest check for a POM Alice Case by Enigma. These are open source files, totally fine. This is based on the Lubricante. We've seen tons and tons and tons of Alice clones and things of that nature in the community lately. That it's kind of just whatever at this point, because so many people are doing it that we don't necessarily see it a necessity to cover all of them. But we do want to cover this one for just a quick little topic on some drama that's going on here down in the comments section. If you want to talk about that, Jay. So I know you're a little bit more familiar with it than I am.
Yeah, so just to clear some things up, the original Lubricante was done by Zambamon, and that was a modified version of the acrylic Alice files that Yuxi Sam released from TGR. So TGR did the Alice. Sam then said, "You know what, guys? If you want to make an acrylic version, here's some files. You can go and make your own version." He made the open source. Zambamon had a look at those files, said, "Oh, I can make some positive adjustments to those," made some tweaks to them, and called it the Lubricante. Again, it was an open source design. And there's been a group being run over the past few months by Homero Co. And with Zamperman's support, and Martin's done the PCB for them, where they've been doing these Alice, I don't want to call them clones, but these Alice replicas within an acrylic design called the Lubricante. That group buys pending shipping. I think some boards have already shipped. I think some other boards haven't shipped, and there's quite a lot of interest in those. So that's an ongoing group buy. And it's very worth bearing in mind that that's just in acrylic. Enigma's been looking at this as well, and one of the common materials that we're starting to see now in plate design, we've also seen in the Kayak and the Sirius as well, is using POM. So POM's a different type of plastic, but it's one that has a really great sound profile, and one that both Brian and I particularly enjoy as well. And what Enigma wants to do is he wants to use that material in sheets, very much like the Lubricanti is in acrylic, cut to make this this particular board because it's open source. So he announced his group buy, InterCheck ready to do a group buy on the 21st of August. He said, this is what I want to do. I want to do it out of black POM. I want to do it very similar to the Lubricanti style. Here's the prices that I've been looking at, and this is broadly what it's going to look like. There's lots of positive comments in the group buy thread. People saying, oh, they were interested in doing it, giving Enigma some good positive feedback. And then one of the other things that's happened in there since this point is that Homero Co, the guy who's doing the acrylic version of the Lubricanti, has then stepped in, and he's had a couple of points to say on this. So I think his first point was around, there was initially a question around whether he could or couldn't do it under the open source directive because someone else was already doing something with it. I think everyone quite quickly agreed that because it's open source, anyone's free to do what they want with the files, because that's kind of what open source means. So that was all fine and dandy, and that was kind of the first question that was asked on this, and everyone kind of agreed that, yeah, Enigma can absolutely do this. It's not a problem. No one can feel snubbed. No one can feel like they've been cut out of the loop or anything like that. So once that point was decided and agreed upon, the next point that happened is that Homero Co decided that they were going to try and do something faster to market than what Enigma was doing. So Enigma's idea is to do the interest check now, start the group buy in about 2 months' time, and just take that time to make sure they've got prototypes and everything else, and make sure that they've followed it. What Homero Co has decided to do is they want to do a group buy starting in about 2 weeks for this now, because they've had the apparently they've been working on this in the background or not, depending on what you believe. I think there's a couple of different bits of the story there. So now Homero Co wants to run a group buy prior to Enigma doing his group buy, even though he's announced it. And the debate's now moved on to, is that undercutting Enigma's costs and sales, and is it going to undercut what value he's going to be able to get out of the group buy, and how many people he's going to be able to approach? Is it going to destroy his group buy in 2 months' time by Homero Co coming in and running his faster and bringing his faster to market because he's announced his idea afterwards? So the question now is around, what's the right order of these things happen? If someone announces that they're doing a group buy for something and going to take 2 months to bring it to market, is it completely fair and feasible for someone to then say, do you know what, I've done this one in acrylic, I'm now going to come in and I'm going to announce my interest check today, and I'm going to start it in 2 weeks, and I'm going to ship the group buy at the time that you're actually starting to do your group buy? Is that fair? Is that right? And how honourable and how ethical is that? So that's kind of where we're up to at the minute. I haven't caught up with the thread for the past couple of hours because we've been doing the show, so I don't know if there's been any difference of opinion since then. I wouldn't be surprised if there's been some additional posts on there or anything else. But that was kind of the position before we started the show today as to how far I'd got into it. So the other side to this as well is 159 is going to be supportive of Enigma to do the PCBs as well. So if you are interested in the group buy, we're not covering this as a group buy topic because we've seen too many Alice clones, but if you are interested in it, then PCBs are available for it as well. Right, Brian, I've talked for about 5 minutes. What are your thoughts?
That's really fine. I don't know. I mean, obviously we've had some run-ins with Homero Co in the recent past, not for the better, unfortunately. But obviously, I'm gonna try to set that aside and look at this completely objectively. But I kind of scanned through the thread, and I don't know. I'm kind of unsure on how I feel about things right now as far as this is concerned, but I do think that he does come off a little abrasive, as he tends to in the past. I'm referring to Homero Co here, or Keebs, as he's sometimes referred to, depending on where you are. Yep. But it's hard to say, like, this isn't the first time we've seen this, right? Someone putting out an interest check and then someone else coming into it being like, oh, hey, I was going to do that. Like, that's not entirely new, but this does he does have the interest check out first, so it's kind of hard to know, like, what are these unwritten rules exactly that he brings up so many times in this thread? Like, what exactly does that mean here?
Yeah, I think what he's saying is he's trying to say that there's a bit of an honor code, and I suspect between a lot of the the vendors there is this kind of honor code around. We probably see this in the GMK kind of side of things quite a lot. I'm assuming that the vendors kind of have some way of talking to each other to agree how many GMK sets are going to run each month, and so they're not stepping on each other's toes in terms of similar colorways running and things like that. And there's kind of an unwritten rule that I'll put in quote marks, as it's about whether you believe that or not. Business is money, and people are going to make their own choices on that either way. So there's this unwritten rule that as a community we try and help each other out and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that in complete fairness, I'm trying to see both sides of this, irrespective of whether we falling out with Homoroco over different things, use of assets and all that kind of stuff, or not. I'd always want to support people in the hobby either way. But I think his view on this is that he's already doing a group buy for this, just because it's in different material. He feels that Enigma's trying to step on his toes and do something that way. Enigma feels that he came up with the intercheck for the POM Alice, and that's very different to the acrylic Alice. It is very different materials. It will sound and feel very different. They're not going to be the same board in any way, shape, or means, other than the look of the layout. And he now feels that he shouldn't be undercut by someone trying to bring something to market faster than the timeline he's already announced. It's a difficult one to say what's right and wrong. People are going to back different things on this. I can see both sides of the argument on this one. I think, and I've got my personal opinion on this, and I'll be clear, this is not necessarily a top pack opinion or anything else. My personal opinion is that Homoroco shouldn't be trying to undercut Enigma in this particular place. I feel that that's a little bit underhand to try and bring his product to market faster, just because he's seen someone trying to, take over what he might perceive as his market share. I think it is very, very different, kind of stuff. Irrespective of whether people have done these, I've seen actually a couple of POM lubricantes already. There's a couple already in existence. There was 2 or 3 on Reddit not so long back. I saw one at a meetup in the UK just after the lubricante files had come out. So that was probably 4 or 5 months ago now, something like that. Neither of them are the first to do this. I know Enigma's looking to get some prototypes made. I've heard rumors that Homoroco has already done some POM ones, but the fact is that no one's put up an IC until Enigma did it for this particular one, and to try and undercut him by doing something faster just because you've got that capability and you've got that experience is business, and it's fair from a business sense. But if you want to look at it from a moralistic sense, that's a very different viewpoint.
Yeah, a lot of morals in question on the show today, it seems. But I like what Mr. Petrov said in the chat actually not too long ago. He says, if you wouldn't want someone to do it to you, don't do it to them, as being the kind of unwritten thing here. So I mean,
that's kind of what I was
if the situations were reversed, what do you think we'd see here? Do you think it'd be the same? Do you think it'd be any different? Do you think there'd be drama surrounding this? It's hard to say, but I mean, Homoroco goes on to say things like, he wants to run his group buy for the POM one, because the strength of the dollar is stronger right now. I think is something that he uses as far as wording, which is kind of weird because that, in theory, goes for both sides as well. And I don't know. This whole thing just seems kind of strange to me, and I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer.
To me, it feels like there's a really easy solution to this, and it's one that both sides seem to be missing. The thing I was kind of building up to here is that you've got Homoroco, who's already got experience doing these kind of group buys, doing the acrylic version and all that kind of stuff. He wants to do a POM version. He's over here in the EU. You've got Enigma, who's over in the US. The logical solution here is run it together, work together, guys, and just be different proxies for different areas. Why not do it that way? We see that in every other group buy we do these days, whether for whatever it is, for key sets, for certain boards and things like that. So if you take one of the recent boards, the IDB 60, it was run in the EU by Pingu, and it was run in the US by Cannon Keys. Why can't we do something similar with that here? We do it with every single key set. We'll have a US vendor, we'll have an EU vendor, we'll have a Oceania vendor. I think that both of these guys are missing a trick here, and that they should actually try and work together, be grown up about it, and just sit down and say, right, why don't I handle the EU orders, and why don't you handle the US orders? Because that's going to be the two main markets that we approach.
I think Enigma actually attempted to reach out to him for potentially that exact same situation, and I don't think Homroko replied to them, or is going to reply to them, or something like that. I recall reading that somewhere in this thread. I was trying to find the comment because I read through all this thread before the show, but sometimes it's easy to miss things. But yeah, that is definitely an easy solution if the parties are willing to work together. But yeah. Okay, yeah. Brez in chat is saying Enigma said he tried to contact him and he ignored the messages. So I mean, it's hard to talk to someone when they ignore you. But man,
it just feels like it's falling out over something that's open source, and that doesn't feel like the right thing. I mean, do you know what? Right, there's nothing to stop anyone from going and taking those files and having a POM one cut tomorrow. If you want to do that yourself off your own back, you can quite happily do that. Brian, if we wanted to do it and do a Top Clack version, we could absolutely go and get the Top Clack logo etched into a POM version and do it ourselves. There is no reason why that can't be done. It's completely open source. It's like school kids. It is literally like two school kids at opposite ends of the playground yammering at each other over this sort of stuff, and I just feel like it's a real negative for the community to see stuff like this.
Yeah.
I think it was poor form for Homroko to say the things he said publicly to Enigma without reaching out to him first and speaking in private. These things can almost always be resolved really quickly by just talking to each other in private. You don't have to make that kind of stuff public. And if an agreement couldn't become made to in private, then maybe you can start to bring things into the public domain and let the community decide with their wallets where they want to go. There's just so many different ways this could have gone, and so many different ways people can handle themselves better in this. I know that Enigma's tried to reach out to Homroko. It's disappointing that people wouldn't want to reply.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a bummer, but I guess sometimes things are just going to be this way, and hopefully we can avoid them more in the future. It's kind of unfortunate. I feel like this thread for Enigma. It's obviously he didn't know that Homroko was going to be releasing a POM version, and to have Homroko come in here and, I'm going to be honest, pretty unprofessionally say the things that he did. It's interesting to see how some vendors and or group buy runners can present themselves publicly and say the certain things that they do, and I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just unfortunate for a lot of people, I feel like.
It is. I don't want to pick sides or take sides on this because I think that'd be poor form, and that's not what we should do from a professional perspective. But it's hard not to with something like this, and I just feel like there's better ways of handling this, and rather than doing the whole school ground thing and reaching out professionally is a much better way of doing it.
Yeah. And like Peripheral Installer in the chat says, just let it die. I totally agree. This feels kind of like almost like in a way a Holy Panda situation where like the product doesn't justify all the drama. I don't think that all these Alice clones justify all the drama either.
No. It's a great layout, but there's so many different versions of this. And do you know what? I'm almost tempted to say to people now, like if these files are open source. If you want to go get one, just go get one of these. Don't wait for a group buy. Just go order one. It's not difficult to find laser cutting services for acrylic or POM or anything other bloody material you want these days. You could even get a one laser cutting layers of copper if you wanted to. It's completely possible. Yeah. And
again, like people have been saying in the chat, at the end of the day, if these are open sourced,
completely open sourced.
Yeah, like it's so hard to get mad about running something that's open sourced.
You don't own it. It's not owned.
Yeah.
It's open. Yeah, you can't complain about someone doing something because they're doing it with an open source file just because you wanted to do the same thing. That's not how open source works. It's disappointing. I think I can't remember who said it was, but whoever said "let it die," absolutely, it's a story that shouldn't exist. And as MP Spears said as well, I completely agree with this. Just because one person's run one version of this doesn't mean they can call dibs on all the rest of them. Dibs isn't legally going to be binding for anything, and this is drama where drama shouldn't exist, and that's bad for the community.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. But anyways, let's move on. Speaking of things that are actually good for the community, let's talk about our sponsors a little bit, shall we?
Go for it.
Yep. So starting us off on the list today, we have ZealPC.net, aka Zeal Generation, which you can find ever so affectionately at our affiliate link, ZealPC.net/TopClack. And you can find all sorts of things here, but primarily keyboard switches, what he's known for, whether you like linears, tactiles, or any variation thereof of silence. He's got you covered. Lots of different ranges there, and all of them pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. I've been using a lot of them lately, and I still love them, no matter how much I use them. Still absolutely love them. So yes, please consider, if you're buying from ZealPC.net, to use our affiliate link /TopClack. It helps us out way more than you might think, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Moving on, we've got the wonderful Mike from Novel Keys. So Mike's got a few different things going on at the moment. So if you're interested in Hiragana Legends, you can look at GMK White on Black Hiragana. We covered this on the show last week, I think it was now. And that's in group buy until towards the end of this month. If Key sets are your thing, you also may want to consider some different variations of Violet on Cream. Both the GMK set is in group buy now, designed by Honeybush. There's a great base kit there for a fantastic price. That kind of compatibility, that price has not been seen for a long time, and it's really, really impressive managed to get there. If you prefer SA, though, there is GMK Violet on Cream SA set extras that are in stock, where they were just before we started the show. I'm hoping they haven't sold out whilst being on air. So if you prefer the SA version, which the GMK version is based on, you can go and pick up the extras for that as well, which has got a great base set. If keysets aren't your thing and you're more into switches or accoutrements, then you can check out the creams. They are currently in stock. So if you want some nice cream loveliness switches in your life, you can go and buy those from Mike now. And there'll be no drama attached to them other than the smell, I promise you, because they do smell quite stinky when they arrive, but they're very good switches. And there's also the Polar Pandas that are available as well now. So this is the latest incarnation of the Yok Panda series, those lovely blue switches. And last thing I just want to shout out is go buy a Gator Ron or something else, because these are really cute, and I absolutely adore this little guy. He sits on my desk pretty much all the time. So go have a look at these as well, guys. Mike killing it in the soft toy game at the moment.
Yeah, we're missing too many plushies in our community, I feel like.
Yep.
So moving on, next we have Input Club, which you can find over at kono.store. Of course, you can still get it on the Keystone analog and mechanical keyboard. The actual campaign's over, but you can still get it on the pre-order, which they have up right now. They do still have White Foxes and Night Foxes still in stock. If you're more into key sets, you might consider GMK Merlin. You can support your friendly neighborhood QMK expert/wizard by picking up one of these sets, which I do think is a pretty darn good-looking GMK set at a pretty decent price as well. There's also Max Keys Berserk if you're more into the anime side of things and you like SA key sets. You might consider SA Berserk. And yeah, that's they have a few other things going on right now. Lots of pre-orders, group buys, and interest checks still going on. You can check out a lot of the entry-level stuff over at the Hex Gears collection too. If maybe you're trying to get a friend or a family member into mechanical keyboards at a low price, Hex Gears collection actually pretty solid value, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Jumping over now to KBDfans Ways store. There is a lot going on here at the minute, so just want to call out a few things that they've got in group buy right now. So the Polaris, which we talked about at length on the show by AIO3, is in group buy. You can buy all the different parts of this. This is a budget gasket mount board. It looks great for the price. I've picked one up. Brian, I don't know if you're picking one up. We are looking to get a production sample as well, so we should have that on stream as soon as one's available. So if you are looking for a great board at a great price, that's a potentially great option for you right now. As well as that, there's also got an interesting group buy on for carry cases as well. So for 65% keyboards, you can get these little carry cases now. So these are very similar to the TX style bags, but a little bit thinner, a little bit more form fitting, and they look quite nice for the price. So do consider those if you're looking for something like that. If key sets from KBDfans is more your thing, then there is another AIO3 collaboration, AIO3 and Way killing it, working together at the minute, where you can get Enjoy PBT Simple JA PBT keycaps. So this is a really nice Latin and Hiragana Sublegends keycap set in that classic colorway. So that's available as well if that's more your style.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, we have Dixiemech, which you can find over at dixiemech.com/topclack if you want to use our affiliate link. Doesn't cost you anything extra, of course, but gives us a little bit of a kickback. He's got a few different things running right now. To the end of the month, we have GMK 8008, which is a freaking awesome looking set, if I do say so myself. At a pretty good price, also. Base kit looking pretty darn fine. Make sure to hop in on that if that's more your thing. He also has, of course, apparel and desk mats and coasters, because I freaking love these coasters so much. I always have one on standby. And of course, he has desk mats as well. He's got lots of different desk mats going on, and also the Rama puller I think is still going on as well. I didn't actually pull up the listing for that because I totally forgot about it, but I think that's still going on. He's kind of I guess what you might call a US proxy for that. If can I even find this? Sometimes I hate navigating Dixie's site, even though I do like his site. But bam, there you go. Yeah, so it takes me so long to find things on some sites. It's like when you're talking about it, like you're trying to go through it. It's like sometimes it can be kind of a nightmare. But yeah, Rama Puller's still up as well. So get it on that while you can. Nice. Dixiemech.com/topclack if you do want to help support us while you buy there. All right, nice. Let's. If we're running way longer than we expected to today, so let's hop into our Q&A right now. Sorry, my lighting's a little off, guys. I was relying on daylight for most of the show, and then it started to get dark, and I was like, "Oh crap!" So I turned on. I totally forgot I had my light off, so I turned on like my desk lights that I use for build streams, which doesn't really help, but it's kind of silly, anyways. Q&A, guys. We have some questions in before we take off here. If you guys have questions, hopefully we have answers. Use the @topclack tag to help us see things a lot easier, please.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have answers. Whether they're actually valid answers or not is a completely different question. But we'll try our best.
Yeah. Melodit is going to start us off with a question. Anyone know if Zeal is planning on running another round of Zealios at group by price? It seems like it's been a while since he ran one. Okay, yeah, so this is actually a question I asked him a couple months back, and he said he was done running Switch group buys. He would just constantly have stock, and people could just buy from stock. I don't think it's maybe the best approach. And I've thought about this a lot. I'm curious to see how it's paying off for him financially, going from constant group buys to in-stock items only. I would like to see the group buys back, if I'm being honest. I mean, you get a cheaper price on all the products, and it feels like people buy a lot more that way, in my experience. So it's something I've been meaning to talk to him about, because I would like seeing those back again. But I mean, whatever works better for him, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, I'd like to see them come back as well. It's been a while since I've bought any Zeal switches actually. But yeah, be interesting to see if they do come back.
Yeah, I mean, I love the switches, but you know, it's much more attractive at like, you know, a 75-cent price point versus a $1 price point. PMS and Chicken asking which GMK sets have text only modifiers. Off the top of my head, Space Cadet, Minimal, Oblivion.
Looking at key sets.
I know Oblotsky likes Oblotsky likes text novelties, or not text novelties, sorry, text only mods the best. So pretty much any set by Oblotsky does.
Yeah, I'm having a look. Yeah, you've covered all the major ones there. I don't have any other ones that are out.
Froyo says Royal his in the set.
Oh yeah, Froyo.
Yeah, Froyo does.
It's not out yet though. It's not.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I can't really think of any other ones besides those.
Yeah, off the top of my head. The vast majority are icon and text for the most part. You know, the vast majority are. But yeah, I think you've covered most of the options there, Brian. I can't think of any others that you haven't covered.
Yeah. Fropsy asking Five Guys or In-N-Out, so non-keyboard question comparing two popular fast food burger chains. I don't actually have In-N-Out where I am, but I've been to In-N-Out quite a few times. I do have Five Guys where I am. I think as far as a burger standpoint, I prefer In-N-Out. Although I do like Five Guys a lot. I mean, being a fat dude, I eat a lot of burgers. I like both places a fair amount, trust me. But as far as strictly burger to burger comparison, I like In-N-Out more. Although I don't like In-N-Out's fries very much. I think the fries are a little bit better at Five Guys. Although I'm not like 100% on those either. I feel like pretty much anywhere where I really like burgers, they have like fries that I don't really care for, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, burger to burger, I prefer In-N-Out.
Okay, so for me, it's a little bit harder to answer because here in the UK we have Five Guys, but we don't have In and Out. However, when I came over to Seattle for the meetup in Seattle a month or so ago, I did have a layover in Los Angeles for a short period of time, and just outside the airport there is an In and Out burger, so I did get to try it. Personally, I would say that for the vast majority of the time, I think they're both great in different ways. So for me, I think Five Guys is right on the cusp of turning from being a fast food burger into, more of a gourmet burger. They kind of do it a little bit like that. Or certainly here in the UK, they do. I've never had a Five Guys in the US, so I don't know if it's different there. But it's kind of just on that cusp. It's like right at the top end tier of that. Whereas I'd class In and Out Burger as definitely being fast food, but way better than McDonald's, way better than Burger King or anything like that. They're kind of like the really top end fast food. That's kind of like the best experience. So I had whatever you recommended, Brian, which was a double, and was it a meaty double or something like that? So I can't remember what you recommended.
Animal style.
Animal style. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually when I go, I'll get like 2 burgers because I'm fat, obviously. So I'll get but I mix it up too because like keyboards, I like variety in my food. So I'll get like a double, like a normal double, and then I'll get a double animal style, and then like sometimes I'll get fries, even though I won't be very happy with the fries. I still order them anyways. So I like kind of having the contrast there. I think animal style is pretty good, but I like the regular as well. So gotta get that variety.
Makes sense.
Yep. Ron DG asking thoughts on Rama's Nemo. So that's the new kind of toy accessory that he recently collabed with. Why don't you tell us how you think about that? Because I know you actually got one, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a toy. It's an executive. It's an executive desktop accoutrement. That's how I would prescribe the name for it. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Someone's elitist.
You can't call it a toy when it's that price.
The collaboration is with a toy manufacturer, correct?
Yeah, so it's a Korean. Okay. I'm trying to think of a different word other than saying toy.
That's why I'm calling it a toy. It's a very awesome high-end masterpiece of craftsmanship when it comes to toys, but I'm still going to call it a toy.
Fine. Okay, I give up. It's too late in the morning for me to try and think of different adjectives to try and justify my decision for buying one. Yeah. But yes, it's cool. I like it. I bought one. I bought one of the cars. So yeah, I can't wait for that to come in.
That's why I get in arguments with you on this show, Jay, because I know it's too late for you, but I'm in prime time right now.
It's 4:30 in the morning. I gotta
win arguments with you somehow. Otherwise, I'd lose all of them if they were on your time.
Yeah. Put me at a disadvantage because it's stupid o'clock.
Yeah. 10 Strong with our next question asking thoughts on plate mount stabs. Also, on the Alice topic, do you think the amount of similar layouts we are seeing in such a short time will hurt each other? Like the LZ1 looks very similar, both the Gothic 70 running in IC and the open source Arisu. I've not seen the Arisu yet.
Okay,
but
let's answer the first question first. Let's go back to the plate mount stabs first. Plate mount stabs, not a fan. Rather use PCB mount ones wherever possible. Plate mount bad, PCB mount better, and all stabs are terrible, but PCB mount are better.
I agree. Okay, so the Alice topic, the layouts that we're seeing, this ergonomic layout, which we did touch on briefly when we were talking about the topic, and I had asked that, is this kind of the feature of the keyboard community? Is this going to be a mainstay style of layout? And I think we're headed in that direction. We've seen so many Alice clones. We see how popular the Alice keyboard is itself. Now, obviously, we mentioned a few others earlier, but like you say, the Gothic 70 and the open source Arisu, and then the new one from LZ. The market's just kind of being flooded with these ergonomic layouts, and I don't know. It doesn't necessarily work for me, but I also haven't spent a ton of time with it, so it's hard to say whether I prefer it one way or the other, but it seems like it's a very popular ergonomic choice for people.
Yeah, and my view on this is people are going to like it, and they're not going to hurt each other, and demand is definitely there for them. And my main counter argument with this, the candy bar style that we've had, where the keys are laid out horizontally, there's no angle to them. We don't see any shortage of 65% run. We don't see any shortage of 60% run. We don't see any shortage of TKLs run. So why would the Ergo layout be any different? I think the community is big enough now to support it. And if we can support 10 different 65s every 6 months, and we can support 10 different TKLs every week, then why can't we support 3 or 4 different Ergo designs, and I'm going to put that in brackets because there's a few different variations of it. But why can't we support 3 or 4 different variations on that? I think it would just fine now. I don't think there's going to be a problem for that perspective.
Yeah. Mike Click's asking, or saying rather, Drop just ran a group buy on Zeal switches. So when we were talking about the Zeal group buys in the past, we were talking about the ones that Zeal runs directly, not necessarily through Drop or another vendor. Because he used to do the runs himself. There'd be,
Yes.
round 11, round 12, etc. And yeah, he just doesn't seem to do that so much anymore. Pluto asking, assuming it is something you like, would either of you join/support a Home Row Co. group buy in the future? I guess I'll answer first here. I would say, judging by the way that Home Row Co. has treated numerous people in the past, Top Clack included, I would say no. I wouldn't want to join anything by him. But I think there's maybe a scale there based on how much I want the item and what the item is. So that's just me being honest. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the thing is, I don't hold grudges. I don't bear ill wishes against people, whether they do things wrong to me or not. I'm not that type of person. I did join the Lubriganti group buy. I haven't dropped out of it despite the misgivings between Home Row Co. and Top Clack a couple of weeks ago. I'm all for rehabilitation, as we talked about before, and supporting people in the community. I don't want anyone to do worse or to fail because of something I've said or done or anything like that. So I completely bear it on mind in terms of a physical capability. It's not necessarily who's running the group buy, but as Brian alluded to, is it something that I actually want? And if it's something that I want, then does it really matter who's making it or selling it or who's making a profit off me? Kind of don't mind that. It doesn't really bother me. I still have to use Microsoft Windows, and whether I like Microsoft or not, I still have to pick a phone and use one of those, whether I like the manufacturer or not. It's kind of irrespective from that perspective for me. I try not to look at it that way. If that being said, I think there's limits to that, to where I'd get to on that. I think there is a limit that even I would draw under it, where people can say things and do things that would absolutely mean that I would not do business with them anymore. I think that there is a trend I'm seeing with Home Row Co.'s involvement in things that's not particularly positive, and I'd like to see that change. If that doesn't change, then maybe I'd change my position on it in the future, if the current trajectory continues. I'm not trying to be diplomatic about it. That's just genuinely how I feel. Everyone's only got so much goodwill that they can give, and whilst I'm all for rehabilitation and people doing the right things and trying to get people to do the right things over time, poor actions lead to poor expectations, and you can only support and help people for so long. So everything's got a limit to it. But right now, it depends on what it was. If it was something I really wanted, if you released something I thought, you know what, I really want that, right now it wouldn't stop me joining. If the trajectory that we see his particular views and his particular behaviours carries on, and there's no positive improvement from that perspective, then perhaps I'd change my position later on.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be the first time I swore off a vendor or group buy runner, because of the way they had treated people in public, the things that they've said about people to people, the way they act, the way they carry themselves. I mean, when you're a vendor, there's a certain level of professionalism I would like to see.
Agree.
And when you're trying to build an audience, when you're trying to build a customer base, it's odd that some vendors act the way they do. Which is quite counterproductive, I feel like, a lot of times to actually growing their consumer base, and it's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way that some people do that, and I don't think that these type of people should be vendors or they should be acting like that. But if they deliver the final product and everything is perfect, then a lot of people are just okay with that, and that's fine.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all with what you're saying, Brian. I think the vendors should be held to a different standard to normal community members, and no one should. Right, let me be blunt. No one should be a dick in the community, right? No one should. That's just not behaviour we want. Everyone should be nice to each other. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't bloody say it, right? You can be constructive and give criticism. That's not being, nasty or evil. I don't mean stuff like that. But if when I say don't say, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say. I think you can still be constructive and have rapport and build relationships that way. But just don't be a dick, right? And vendors do need to be tied to a different level on that. But I'm probably one of the more forgiving people in that nature, and I'm completely aware of it. It's kind of my style is to be more about rehabilitation and to try and get people to be better people and to encourage the right behaviors rather than just shut down and say, do you know what, that guy's a dick, I'm not going to talk to him anymore. I'd rather try and work on that and try and encourage the right behaviors as a community, not as an individual, as a community, to try and get people to do it. But if people can't stand up consistently to that kind of scrutiny and they can't change over time and they show no signs of wanting to improve or to wanting to change or even understanding that change is needed, or that they're doing anything particularly wrong, then my belief in them and my support for them will wane over time. And as I said before, it'll get to the point where it doesn't matter what they're saying. I would still consider culling them out, but you have to get there. You have to try. You have to try and rehabilitate people where you can, and try and make the community a better place. If we're not all striving to work together to make the community a better place, what's the point? It should be a nice place. It should be somewhere where we can come to hang out, to talk about our hobbies, to talk about life events, to be nice to each other. That's about
definitely. El Pepe 21 is asking, what's a plate material you wish was more popular? What's the most interesting plate you have used? Looking for build ideas. For me right now, it's still POM. POM is my favorite plate material to have and use.
Yeah,
and I do wish it was more popular, but it's also gaining popularity a lot over the last several months. So it's hard to say that maybe it's not popular at all right now, because it is definitely gaining popularity.
Yeah, I think if I were to pick one material that I wish was more popular, I'd probably pick carbon fiber. It is, again, like POM, it's starting to see some more adoption in the community. I really like carbon fiber. I love POM as well. I think both are great materials for different things. If I was, what's the most interesting plate I've used? Probably the nylon plate that I've got in the Prophet. That's a really, really weird plate because it just removes sound from the board. It's so bizarre. I mean, Brian, I know you typed on the board, but the plate just seems to suck sound out. It was weird.
Well, yeah, when you first came over to my place and I typed on it, I was like, "Are these like silent inks?"
Nope.
Because you just said they were inks, and I was like, there's like no audio to this. It's bizarre, at least.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Interesting.
Yeah, it felt good. It was a nice board, but it was odd that there was like not a louder sound. It was very, very strange to me.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, nylon plates, and I think we should see more materials. There's thousands of materials out there that we don't use, right? There's all sorts of fabrics and things that could be used for plates that we don't consider today. So we should look at definitely into different. Sorry, fabrics and probably that way, but there's definitely textiles that are supportive enough to be a plate and to use in that kind of environment that we should start to look at. Plastics are one that we're actively involved in looking at as a community. But I think moving away from metals and towards different types of materials, plastics, particularly different textiles as well, would be nice to see.
Yep. Totobi7714 is asking, should group buy for keycap sets occur more often now, since the keyboard community seems to be growing a lot more lately and new people wanting older sets?
More often. We've got 10 running at the minute. That's crazy. We've got more sets running right now than we did in 6 months in 2017.
I think. Hold on. I'm reading this question over and over again because I think he means something that we don't think he means.
Oh, does he mean that the same set should run more frequently? Like we should see Hamon run every 6 times, every 6 months or something like that?
Rerunning sets? Yeah, because he ends it with growing a lot lately and new people wanting older sets. I don't know. We're having so many new sets run already that I feel like that's never going to really stop. It's just going to keep ramping up. And if we just keep adding more sets, then it's even reruns. It's too many sets, man. There's like 10 plus running this month already.
I do agree. What I would caveat that with is that we're probably at a stage now where there's probably 3 or 4 sets that should be just available all the time. Black on white, white on black.
Yes.
You know, possibly something like 9009
Honeywell.
or Honeywell. Those sets should be available constantly. That should be something that the community is in enough of a position to just keep on buying. We've seen it with black, white on black, on Mass Drop. They must have bought 2,000 sets or something, and they keep selling them. You watch that ticker; it goes up by 100 sets every day. They're not slowing down in terms of the volume of the sets that they're selling. That something like Minimal or Stormtrooper or something like a black on white set should be stock as well. Maybe a Dolch type set because that's still got a lot of popularity in the community, or like a Honeywell. But there should be 3 or 4 sets that are available constantly. In terms of reruns, I think reruns still have their place, but you need to be careful with them. We saw quite recently with Carbon Round 2 in GMK that it was significantly lower than expectations. It was maybe too soon to rerun that. Even though it did sell a ton compared to what a lot of sets have sold in the past, it was not as significantly high as what people were expecting it to sell, which is unusual in the current GMK climate. So I think you need to be very careful when you do pitch a rerun of a set. Some sets that have sold poorly in the past that are now adored, such as Olivia, it nearly didn't make MOQ, and then now it's one of the hottest keycap sets out there. I think that would sell almost instantly, and they are planning to bring that one back. So I think it very much depends on the set, but my vote would be for some vendors working together to have an almost constant stock of certain colorways.
Yeah, or just buy more extras for vendors out there, because we see a lot of the times when they run a group buy. I think I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Something that ran recently on Novel Keys, or even just the original Olivia run. It's like you can buy like 10 extras or 20 extras or 50 extras or whatever, and those sell out within like a minute, 2 minutes maybe. But maybe consider buying enough extras to where other people can buy it, because a lot of people are okay with not having to wait and then paying that premium, paying that extra amount for the set that's in stock. A lot of people are okay with that. We're seeing that a lot. It's like, why not pick up another 100 extras, 150 extras, maybe 200, 250 extras, and that way when people actually want it, people are actually receiving their sets, posting pictures on RMK, and other people are seeing them. Hey, I want that set now. That looks amazing. Like, where do I go to buy it? And then everyone's like, oh, you can't. It was a group buy. You can maybe pick it up on the aftermarket for triple price or whatever. But like, just keep those sets in stock, or just buy enough extras to where you don't run out within a 5-minute span. Maybe people can actually get on them, Because I mean, could you if Mike had bought 250 extras of Olivia, which I know sounds unreasonable at the time because the set didn't really make MOQ, but those 250 sets would have sold out that day. That day it would have sold out. 250 extras.
If Mike came up to us today and said, guys, tomorrow I'm going to put 250 sets of GMK Olivia on the site, how quickly do you think it would sell out? I'd say less than 5 minutes.
I would say less than 2 minutes, probably.
90 GMK Bento sets sold out in 2 minutes, so that shows you how quickly they sell.
Yeah, and I mean, it'd be good for the vendor, because you can sell it at a $10, $20, $30 markup or whatever, like a lot of people do with extras, because you're fronting the money for it, obviously. So
for sure, yeah.
It's good for the merchant, because you make a little extra money off of it, and it's good for the people because they can buy it more accessibly, and instead of paying a double or a triple or quadruple what the aftermarket price would be, you just pay a $20 markup or whatever, and it's not a big deal. So I would like to see more of that, more extras being bought by vendors for the sets that will clearly sell, really well. And then, like Jay mentioned, I think just having vendors have it in stock sets for things like black on white, white on black, maybe Honeywell, Dolch, things that aren't necessarily as closely quote unquote copyrighted unofficially by the community.
Yeah, OG colorways. Yeah,
exactly. OG colorways 9009 maybe being in consideration as well. So, yeah.
It's a great question to Toby. I like that question a lot. Now we've thought about it. I probably misunderstood it at first, so I apologize for that. But once we got into what you really meant, I really like that question. Good. Yep. Next question comes from My Name is the Royal and says, do you guys watch John Oliver? I have no clue who that is. Sorry, I assume it's someone in the US, so I apologize if...
So you can't say that, because now you're putting the pressure on me to know who John Oliver is. And while I've heard the name, I actually don't know who he is.
Okay, well, that's easy done. No, we don't know. Well, if you want to enlighten us after the show, please feel free. I was just going through chat, and Gio didn't tag me as such, but he was discussing that he disagrees with my point, and that's the beauty of the hobby, man. That's the beauty of the world. We can disagree and we can still be friends. So I appreciate that you. I'm getting shit now because apparently John Love is British, but we'll come back to that in a second. I appreciate you've got a different viewpoint, and bear in mind my examples might not have been great because I'm thinking on the spot and I'm responding to these questions on the spot, and it is nearly 5 a.m. in the morning, Gio. So if my, if the examples that I give aren't particularly accurate, ask me when I'm a little bit more awake, and I'll try and give you some different answers. But the next actual question comes from Langelandia and says, really interesting. If you could give a wedgie to any historical figure, who would you choose and why? A wedgie to any historical figure.
That's something I've certainly never thought about before.
Let's have a bit of time and we'll come back to that question in a few minutes. Let me let that percolate in the back of my mind and we'll come back to that later on.
I'm not good enough.
Remind us in a couple of minutes.
I'm not good enough to percolate, so I'm going to answer it now with just the first thing that comes to my mind. I'd give Lincoln a wedgie. Bad Lincoln, no slavery.
I think you're going too easy on stuff like that. That's too obvious an answer.
Well, I'm not a historian, so I don't feel like putting that much effort of my brain power, which is already very limited, obviously. Very small brain, very smooth.
I've got an answer for this one now.
Right.
I would give a wedgie to Nostradamus and tell him to stop influencing people in the Middle Ages with all of his stupid prepositions and prophecies. So that's who I would do it to, because I still think that's the amount of impact that his name has had through the ages is stupidly overrated, and I disagree with pretty much everything he ever wrote. So there you go.
Lincoln freed the slaves shows how much of a historian I am.
Yeah, you got.
Who am I thinking of then? Who was in that time period that was all about the slavery? I'm gonna have to go look this up after the show, and I'm gonna feel really stupid. More so than I already do, which is, pretty much the standard amount on the show.
And just before we get on to the next question as well, people keep telling me that John Oliver is British. I have no idea who he is. I don't know all the British. Sorry, Neb.
Now we're gonna have to look up who John Oliver is.
I'm not doing it on the show. I'll look after the show. I'll give you guys some feedback tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Next question comes from Vomindoran. So this is the guy behind the Yugo set, and he says, "Do you guys have any feedback on GMK Yugo's colorway in and of itself? Would you change anything? Maybe use one of the other colors more, N9 or something like that?" To be honest, I think it's great as it is. Like I said, I really, really like the red. I think the red is a great color. I think it works well on the kind of creamy yellowish kind of color as well. I wouldn't change anything about it.
No, I think the color is fine. I mean, I think the idea is just to get as close to the actual original car colors as possible, and the closer you get to that, the better. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Oh, and Quantrix hosting us as well. Thanks, Quantrix. Thank you for that, dude.
Thanks, man. Geo is asking, rehab is a great thought, but they need to show that they want to change, or at least understand they need to change. And in this case, he isn't. He isn't. So your position is just being taken advantage of. That's a very good point.
I think, and I did touch on this. I said he's got to change over time. So if he realizes that he needs to tweak and change it. So a great example of this is about a year ago, 18 months ago, Donut Cat started to get quite aggressive in an interest check thread he had on Reddit. And he got some negative comments about the way he was reacting to people, and there was some small comments. And he went away and he slept on it. And the next day he kind of came back and he posted apologies to everyone in that thread that he'd said something aggressive towards, or something that was not becoming of a vendor. So change can come overnight like that, or it can be slow building, over time. So I think you just have to give people time sometimes to realize.
The idea is also you have to give people a chance. You can't just be
right.
Because I know I didn't actually say it, but someone in chat earlier said that anything that they would say would just be a PR stunt. But it's like, if you can't, if you don't buy their products and you don't believe anything they say publicly, then how is anything ever going to change? You just have to at that point, it's the community that has to change their mind, not the actual like person. Because if people are trying, then and you're not supporting it, then what else can you do at that point? Great thought though, definitely.
Yeah, we've talked so much about that. I don't want to touch on any more, guys. I'll be honest. It's one of them topics that just makes me sad thinking about it. So let's have some more positive.
I'm a little behind in chat, so I'm trying to catch up. I think everyone's still talking about John Oliver or how stupid I am for the Lincoln thing.
Yeah, well, apparently I should have known that John Oliver's British, but Nebulent said something about last week tonight. I don't know what that's referring to, so apologies if I missed that.
Is John Oliver like a late night host?
I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe it's.
We're gonna have to look it up.
Clarify that one for me, Nebulent, because I don't know. Langelandy sends us the love heart, so thank you, dude. Appreciate that. Jesus. So John Oliver started with Jon Stewart and now has a HBO show called This Week Tonight that reviews this week's news topics with humour. Okay, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, fine.
Wit Sellers asking general consensus on the lube job on the MD Holy Pandas. Wow, good question. I haven't actually even opened them yet. I opened the thing, but I haven't actually pressed on any of them yet.
Mine are incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah, well, that's the general consensus, right? Is that all of them are generally inconsistent?
Yeah, very inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm just going through pressing a few of them. They sent me 110, I think is what this is. So, I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but I imagine they're just as inconsistent as everyone else has been saying. Because
before you get perfectly.
How could the entire community be wrong? So yeah, I don't know. They feel like holy pandas. Some of them feel a little scratchier than others. Some of them feel a little bit more lube than others. I will probably clean them or have them cleaned by someone that will relube them for me anyways.
Oh, Classy, you've got some work coming in by the sounds of it, dude.
Yeah. Thanks, Classy. But yeah, I don't know. Inconsistent lube it doesn't really matter to me, but I do think it's a problem because a lot of these people that are buying them with the intention to use them without ever even opening them, just use them completely stock. So, which is totally fine and acceptable. So I do think that they should have just not been lubed. I feel like at the factory level. Because, the people that aren't willing to actually have them lubed or lube them themselves probably don't care enough about having them lubed. So just leave them stock. Don't try to... Because this is the same problem we saw on the Pandas, too. Because originally on the Infer Pandas, they went for the full lube job, which would have been really cool if they pulled it off. But they didn't. And it fell really flat. And the manufacturer messed up pretty bad. And they were really... Just like these, they were very inconsistently lubed. So,
yeah, these things happen.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I get it, but if it's not gonna, be perfected at least in a smaller production run, then don't try it on a massive scale. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Sorry, still kind of scrolling through some stuff. Drezky, I think is how you pronounce that, is asking, did you guys back the Keystone on Kickstarter? Are you more excited or skeptical overall? So I didn't personally back it because I'm pretty sure we're getting a sample at some point. So I'm hoping to check out the sample, but I'm definitely excited and positive overall. I do like the guys at Input Club. I've spent a lot of time with them. I've spent a lot of time talking to them, drinking whiskey with them. I think that they do a pretty good setup over there, and I think that Hata, who is an absolute genius and mad scientist, is going to do a lot of R&D with those switches like he's already done, and I think it's going to be pretty cool. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Yeah,
Brian gets all the freebies because everyone's based in America, so I had to buy this. But yeah, I joined it on Kickstarter.
Well, I could have just sent it to you after they sent it to me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, international
I'm lying
shipping,
anyway. I'm lying anyway because I got the what did I build last week? The Singer. I got the Singer the other day, so yeah, I'm lying anyway.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? You're sheesh.
Yeah, sheesh. I'm lying. It's literally 5 o'clock in the morning now. I am half asleep, but yeah. But no, I joined it on Kickstarter. I'm really excited. We've talked about this at length on previous shows. We both think that this type of Switch is going to probably be where the community heads to in the future at some point, whether it's this particular Switch or whether it's something else that comes out afterwards. The community is going to go away from physical actuation to more of a digital actuation, but still with the mechanical properties inside the Switch, and that is going to be the future at some point. So yeah, so whether it's this particular one or whether it's something else that comes later, yes, we'll see at some point. Next question comes from Slippery Pete. He says, who has the best redemption arc in the Cube community?
That's a great question. That's an awesome question, actually. I can't think of an answer off the top of my head, but I really like this question.
I've got a really controversial answer.
Is it Sprit?
Yeah, I think Sprit has changed significantly. So there was a whole issue with him a couple of years ago where he did a group buy and he refunded some people and didn't refund others, and disappeared with some funds, whatever. But he's come back to the community now, and he holds his end of the bargain. And right at the beginning of this year, he had an issue where there was some of his shipments were delayed for about 6 weeks or so for just personal customers, and the reason for it was that he was shipping out to a lot of vendors who bought big batches of his springs. And a lot of people started to get antsy about it and wondered if he'd done the same thing again. They started pressing, refund on the orders and getting chargebacks through PayPal and stuff like that. And you know what? Sprit actually manned up, and even if people had made an order, then done a chargeback and got their funds back, he still sent them their order. So he sent out every order he got, whether he still had the money for it or not, earlier on this year. So I think that was a really stand-up way around it. I did actually speak to him about this in email and say you should have just told people you weren't shipping springs for 6 weeks because you had vendor orders to fill, and you wouldn't have had an issue. So I think he's taken that to heart, and I suspect that it's a controversial answer. People might not agree or disagree with me, but I think he wants to do well, and that's the most important thing. As Gio was saying earlier on, people have to want to improve for us to be able to support that and give them that kind of redemption and rehabilitation, and he absolutely does. He's very much in that vein at the minute. So people might disagree with me on that one, but that's just something that I've seen personally. Brian, you got any thoughts on best redemption arcs?
I'm still thinking about it, and I'm drawing blanks right now, but I want to answer this question, so I'm gonna keep thinking about this, and ask me again later. Not on this episode, but in another stream or in Discord or something, because this is a really cool question. I like that a lot.
Yeah, hot take. He only fulfilled to get his eBay storefront and his paper back up and running. Yeah, but you have to remember that these were ones where chargebacks had been accepted and the disputes had been closed down and people had been given refunds, and yet he still shipped the product. That had nothing to do with getting his store back up. That was two very separate things. As far as PayPal are concerned, he either gives them a refund or he ships them a product. He doesn't do both. He absolutely did that off the back of his own goodwill, which is a positive improvement, I'd like to think. But either way. What's the next question then?
Jace the Poop Scooper is asking, did you all catch the Discipline 65 group by yesterday? Discipline 65. I have not seen that yet.
Oh, I did see this, yeah. But again, I've been really busy with work and things like this, and I completely forgot about this for the news document. But no, I did see this. It was a through-hole kit type thing. Hold on, I've got a link for it. It is in one of the links I saved and completely forgot to add to the show. Brian, if you do want to take a look at it, the links I have, don't expect you to share it. But it's like a 65%. It's like the gingham that I built, and it's all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's very much that kind of thing. So yeah, I thought it looked really good. It was great. It sold out really quickly as well, from what I remember reading. I did see it. I think I saw it after it had started and after it had closed, actually, and it had already sold out. And for those interested, I know that Yankar is doing a Gingham 65 at some point soon as well. That's in his list of things to do. But yeah, I love stuff like this. I had a ton of fun building my Gingham. I thought it was great. So I want to buy more of this kind of stuff. Really like this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it turns out a lot of people like that aesthetic of the gingham, the plaid, etc. So
and if you like a flexible typing experience, they're really bouncy boards to type on as well. Really good for that sort of thing.
Yeah, very nice. Let's see.
Shout out to Ray as well. Ray for a 17-month streak of subs. I think we missed this before, saying "Pog, we out here." I don't know what that means, but yeah, okay, yeah, we out there.
He's pogging. We out here. It means he's here. We out here to do the thing, which is
he's watching
at this point, watching Top Clack. Yeah.
He's like saying hi. Is that just another way of saying hi? Yeah.
Oh man, Geo showing off his almost 24-month streak. It will be in 9 days, I guess. That's funny. Can't beat Schwa. Can't beat Captain Schwa. I think he's the OG sub.
Yeah, I think he is.
Can we be done now so Jay can sleep? Yeah, I think we're caught up on the questions, so we'll call that the show.
Yeah, we'll call that the show. Anything you've got build stream coming up, Brian?
Yeah, so build stream tomorrow. I'll be putting together the Perry 60 here. So definitely gonna have some fun with that. Gasket mount, isolation mount, $100. So that should be pretty fun. Don't know what switches I'm putting in here yet, but I'll let chat decide. Switches and keycaps like I often do on the stream. So if you're interested to watch that stream, it'll be tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So tune in for that and help me decide what switches and caps to put on this bad boy.
Excellent. I've got a build stream coming. It won't be on Sunday. It's a public holiday this weekend, and it's also my father-in-law's birthday. So on Sunday, I won't be doing a build stream. The usual slot will actually be at the same time as the Sunday build streams are usually, but on the Monday, because I don't go back to work until Tuesday, which is good. 4 days off, which is nice. So I'll be doing it on Monday. So I appreciate that, guys. It'll be lunchtime on Monday when I start streaming for you, but it just have to be the way it is this week. I'm not sure what I'm actually building. It could be a number of different boards. It's either going to be my personal Space 65, or it's going to be the second build of the ANSI, because I need to do a different build of that, or it's going to be a second build of the Cypher. I haven't decided which of the three it's going to be yet, but it'll be one of those boards. But I say that will be on Monday at 12 noon PT, 3 p.m. EST, and 8 p.m. UK Monday. So it's going to be a day later than it normally is.
Very, very nice. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching today. If you want to catch the VOD, it'll be up on YouTube. Of course, as always, you can check below the stream. You can find a link to not only our YouTube channel, but also our official Discord, which you can come and chat with us and have a good time. And make sure to join the... is that the doc you just posted for the giveaways?
Yeah, that's the first
perfect.
one. So yeah, I was just
good timing. Yeah. So of course, obviously, next week's episode on Thursday is going to be our 3-year anniversary episode officially. So we still have the contest running for the giveaways now. The winners will be announced on that episode. We'll have something else special in store for you as well. So make sure to tune into next week's episode. It's going to be a great time, and join those links that Jay just posted. Those are the contests. You can win some cool free stuff. Because who doesn't love free stuff? Come on, guys.
Right?
Free stuff.
Yeah. Which reminds me also, Captain Schwart, reach out to either Brian or myself.
He got me. He got me already.
I got you. Cool. Yeah, a keycap and some stickers. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, send him some new stuff. Heck yeah. All right, guys. Jay, it's almost time to go to bed for you.
Yeah, 5:09 a.m.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. And catch me tomorrow building the Perry 60. Then catch Jay on Monday building something unknown. And then catch us next week on Thursday for our 3-year anniversary special. Love you guys so much. Thank you all so much for the support, the bits, the donations, everything, the subs. Greatly appreciate it. Have a good night, guys. Or day.
See you later, guys. Take care.
Peace.